Good evening, chat. Hello. It is Thursday night. So it's time for the Thursday night show. I mean, like, kind of a funny thought, isn't it? Isn't it a funny thought? And, oh, hold on real quick. Hey, buddy. Come here. Oh, hold on, chat. I gotta get him. Come here, Clay. Come here. Come on, Bubber. Hi, buddy. Yes. Oh, yes. We have a great guest to start the show, chat. Producer Clyde. Everybody's favorite Pupperton. But yes, why do I sound so loud? Oh, there we go. I could hear it through the TV speakers. But anyways, welcome to the Thursday night show, guys. Because what better night to have it than on Thursday? I mean, it'd be really weird if we didn't. Thank you guys all for being here. Thank you all for being here. Bob says, go in the casino tomorrow. For what? There's nothing to do there. But yes, guys, welcome to the show. My name's Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. I'm an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area. Tonight, we got a lot to talk about. David, we find out that, wow, he really got it on, apparently from the prosecution, when he chopped up his little teenage girlfriend. We're going through the ATF putting out a bunch of new regulations, which there's like one or two of them that are kind of based, but the rest of it's like, eh. And then James Comey got indicted again. And as I said, the day it came out, it's not going to go anywhere. We'll talk about it. It's not going to go anywhere. There are some other stuff we're going to get to. One of them is a guy got indicted who's part of one of Fauci's lackeys. And it was for FOIA abuse and obstructing the records things, which I think is going to be something you'll see them try to pin on Trump appointees and people when if a Democrat president takes over, I could see this happening. So we'll see though, chat. We'll see. Alyssa Marie says, how was your weekend? Yes, chat. How was your weekend? Tell me, how did your weekend go? But you know, as the song says, you know, Thursday, well, here comes the bull. So, yes. Hi, buddy. Well, I know he's getting ready for Florida. We got to get him a haircut coming up. Got to get him all ready. Oh, do you want to see 2.0? Well, here. We'll let you stare at the camera once. Look at the camera, buddy. Whoa. I think, oh, this is embarrassing. He's like, put me down, fat man. All right, Clyde. I'll set you on the ground, buddy. There you go. All right, chat. So let's get into this. Let's get into this. No, I'm not going to get a Disney pass. No. Not at all. Darth Botto says, you've gone 3 weeks without a Friday Guir stream. Must feel good. Yes, and tomorrow night, chat, we are going to cover it. TLDR, but total Janny death for the Jannies at Reddit. They are going to be exposed, and we are going to dab on that and make them suffer. We're going to do that a little earlier tomorrow night, starting at about 7. I thought about doing it today, but I'm like, I don't really, you know, like we need to save some content. So we'll do that tomorrow night. But there'll be a lot of dabbing on the Reddit Jannies because, hey, fuck them. That's what they're there for. Yes. Ma, get the sleeve! Yes. Yes. Sweet Bovine says, have you found out what the oranges are for? No, I have not. No, I have not. Sweet Tooth says, not for much longer, Sean. What's not for much longer? Johan for $5 says, for the Clyde anti-Gator missile defense system. Yes. I mean, honestly, that is my biggest, that's our biggest fear, especially with Clyde. Lainey's afraid of everything, so we don't think she'd, like, if she got out, she'd really go anywhere. But Clyde, if Clyde had the chance to go out the door, he'll just start, and he doesn't run away, but he's just walking down the street like, hello. Like, he wouldn't know what's going on. PPP wants you to defend Ohio buffets. I mean, what's wrong? What is he talking about Ohio for? I didn't hear about this. What's wrong with buffets in Ohio? Did something happen I missed? But yeah, we still have a Ponderosa in Ohio. So yeah, there's a lot to defend there. Friday night is Taco Tuesday. Yes. I'm channeling Damon Toll with his Comey takes. I mean, I don't know which part about that, but yeah. Oh, Sweet Tooth says, not an Ohio lawyer for much longer. I mean, I'm still going to be licensed, so. IRL Shoney stream when? Well, I don't know. But yes, he is going to become Swamp Dog Clyde 100%. 100%. I assume they have Shoney's in Florida. It's the South. Manda Panda says, I'm going to Florida too. Well, there you go. Ploxer noted all the times PPP mentioned you last night. Oh. Seller says, one of the body cam channels had something in Willoughby Hills. I'm not surprised. I mean, there have been a couple of those that have been very close to me in my house. So, when's Clyde gonna offer his own legal analysis? One day soon. One day soon. You know you're gonna get a mean case of swamp ass in Florida. Oh, I'm sure I am. I'm a fat guy in Florida. It's gonna be fun for that part. Let's see. You should be more afraid of the coyotes. Well, we're gonna keep I'm worried about him escaping and getting out, running into something right away. Otherwise, we'll be pretty good at taking care of him. So, yeah, I'll see. I don't know what he called me out for. Pyrometer says you fell asleep watching stream. No, I don't. Okay. Pyrometer. People ask me to leave it up. I leave it up and I go to bed. So I let the stream go all night. Like we have that established. We talk about it and I say, good night, chat. I'll see you guys later. And I just put it on mute and leave the stream running and I go to bed. So I'm not sleeping there. Okay. Yes, there's a Shoney's in Orlando. Oof. That's going to be a little bit of a drive, but okay. Let me see. PP when you yeah, I'll do it, but I don't know what caused it. I have gotten sleepy before, but not last night. So until you put meme on, then fell asleep. No, not last. Like, what the fuck are you guys talking about? But whatever. Okay. All right. Well, we got to get to other stuff here. Couple things have come in. Amateur Iconoclast for 5 subs. That gets us on a. Even though Clyde doesn't do them for you, he did like 2 this morning. When we woke up and he came in. He walked in. He was sitting on the bed and he did an awoo. But this is the best you get. You get the canned awoos, chat, not the fresh ones. Yes, and then EDW Raptor for 5 subs. Gets us another awoo. That's right, chat. That's right. One day we'll get it. We'll get a better awoo. I think. And then Sean Sandwich Sundry has been a member for 8 months. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. Let's see here. Yes, May Day is tomorrow. So if you're a communist, happy Communism Day, you communist bastards. Yes, Meme got hit. Then this afternoon, Mikey No More got hit by a flag. He did. He 100% did. Yeah, I actually saw a little bit of Mikey No More's thing. I had a couple minutes, and that the ops tier list is kind of funny. And I saw the part where he's like, "Well, I have Keemstar on here because if you're gonna have any list, you got to have Keemstar on it." And I thought that was kind of funny. Okay, all right, chat. Let's get started. I'm talking about the anniversary of Oh, DSP's anniversary of the May 1st burst. Yeah. Yes. Well, there's that too. There's that too. Oh, so. And then Dave been a member for 4 months. Says Florida can give you a mean case of swamp ass. I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will, especially in the middle of June and July when we get down there. So not looking forward to that part, but we'll have to suffer. We'll have to suffer. Also, guys, sorry I was late. I was not paying attention to the time and in the middle of everything. My mom texted me. She's like, "Hey, do you know why the sheriffs came in our county and started serving warrants in the county buildings?" And I'm like, I live like an hour and a half away from there. I don't know, Mom. I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know. I have no idea. So all right. This user's 404. Member for 3 months says that's just the South in general. Yeah. Oh, Meme Copium reenacted the camera was on the whole time. Really? That's funny. He got on Kick, and I still haven't. I'm on Kick right now, and they haven't monetized me. It's like it sucks. It really sucks, Chad. It really sucks. So we're gonna get to this. We're gonna get to a couple things tonight. All right. Let's get started off with David, the sing. You have to promote it, dog. I do promote it. If they make me active, I'll promote the shit out of them. So they're just being gay. I've asked to sign up for their shit before, and they won't help me out. So Kick is being gay. All right, guys. Let's get started with the first big thing, David. If you guys remember David Sager, last year they found a 14-year-old girl, what was left of her decaying in the trunk of his Tesla. And at the time, they decided, well, we're not going after him. We're going to investigate it. Well, as of about 2 weeks ago, he's been charged with murder. And a bunch of documents have come out. There's been some kind of interesting filings. And one of the first things that got filed is he had a preliminary hearing set for tomorrow, May 1st. Well, his attorneys, and this is, I thought, especially, you file it because it can, especially if it's going to be there. They filed a request to show up in, they say civilian attire, but that just means not his jailhouse attire. And this is the proposed order that was submitted to the judge. And I love how the judge on this one just goes, denied right across the front of it. I'm like, that's kind of tough. That's kind of tough. I love how they do that. That there's a lot of fire in that one. I like it. Denied. The next thing though that happened, and you guys might think this is, you wouldn't think of this, but you got to get haircuts for your guys. You have to take care of your people because remember, he is going to be, and also it's funny because Burke Bretler, this is the law firm's Destiny's using. So when you're a royal monarch accused of messing with little kids, or you're Harvey Weinstein, or you're accused of chopping up 14-year-olds with chainsaws, or you're Destiny, use Burke Bretler LLP. They get results. So what did they do though? So what did they do? Well, they were asking for him to get a haircut. And this actually is kind of a big deal because every time he goes in front of the camera, it's going to shape public opinion, potential jury pools, everything out there like that. So what are we seeing here? Well, they asked him to get a haircut. And yes, the sheriff's department scheduled to get him a haircut, and his hearing set for May 1st. And you might say, well, wait, why is this stamp? Okay, that's actually common in, busier and bigger courts that either the judge has a stamp like this or they'll have a stamp with their signature on it. And their clerk and, boom, 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 all day long. That's how stuff goes. When I was in Toledo, for example, you had like 7 judges, and that would routinely happen. You go into court and you'd be like, hey, their bailiff, like, hey, can I get this continued, or can we get this sent to diversion, or can we get things moved around? And the clerk would look at it, and they know their judge's limits and the rules on things, and judge stamp, and they had a whole little box of all the stamps they use. So Marlene says, can he get a haircut from the jail barber? Yes, but that's what they're asking for, because haircuts aren't always available. And yes, it's not even the jail barber. It might just be one of the inmates that comes around who's a trustee who can do, bzzz. Or maybe they were able to get him scheduled for a proper haircut. I don't know, but it takes a while. And, for example, I've had clients who've been in jail and we're getting ready for trial, like the week before trial. I got to, depending on the jail, I got to talk about a month out ahead of time. Hey, you talk to the lieutenant that runs the jail or the chief deputy. I need to get a haircut for my guy. How do I go making sure he gets it done a week before trial so he doesn't look like a crumb bum? And that's a thing. So he doesn't just look like Joe Shit the rag man. You got to do something about that. So this is going to trial. Well, no, this is not going to trial. It's going to a preliminary hearing. It's a preliminary hearing to determine whether or not they have enough evidence to keep him in jail and sustain the probable cause on this. In results of all this, though, the prosecutors, have released a very interesting brief regarding their preliminary hearing. And this is, here we go, chat. Here we go. So this is from Nate Hochman. He is the district attorney for LA County. And it's their hearing regarding the evidence that'll be presented. So they say they're going to provide a brief roadmap of the evidence they intend to introduce. They're just giving the basic information here. So here we go. The dismembered body of a 14-year-old, Celeste Rivas, was discovered in the front trunk. Remember, it's a Tesla, so they have a front trunk of David's Tesla in September of 2025. The vehicle had been towed there, which had been parked approximately 400 feet from David's home in Hollywood Hills. Surveillance and other evidence confirmed the defendant was the last person to drive the vehicle on July 29th, before he left Los Angeles on a tour. You're like, okay. On September 8th, the manager of the tow yard noted the strong smell of decay and the presence of flies coming from the vehicle. This is a free one, chat. Remember, you have to sanitize crime scenes. It's where you take a bag of lime and you sprinkle, like on The Wire. When Snoop and what's the guy's name? Chris, I think it was his name, was going around with Snoop, and they were putting bodies in the row houses, man. They'd shoot you, they'd have the tarp, and then they'd sprinkle lime over you and then put the tarp back over you. You got to have a game plan, chat. You got to have a game plan. Yeah, Chris Parnell. There we go. Yes. Chris Parlow. Yeah, there we go. You got to take care of stuff. Can I take notes on this? Yes, do it. You got to. Copium says he's thinking about the oranges. Yes, thank you, mate. Congrats on being monetized on Kick. Congrats. And me and Copium out there, guys, doing real good work. But, lime does not provide the correct amount of degradation. No, but quicklime will help kind of keep the smell and decomp down, keeps flies off. There's some advantages to it. Anyways, let's get back to this. He notified LAPD, who determined the Tesla was registered through resources at the tow yard. They observed a black cadaver bag covered in insects. Inside the bag, they discovered the decomposed head and torso. And they say a plastic garbage bag underneath contained the dismembered arms and legs. However, the victim's ring and pinky fingers on her left hand had been amputated and were not found in the Tesla. It's like, that's interesting. That's almost like that would be very detrimental to him. They determined through dental records that it was the victim. The Robbery Homicide Division detectives, that is the cream of the crop. RHD. Those guys are the best. If you guys have ever watched Heat, that's what Al Pacino was, robbery homicide. They determined the victim and the defendant met when she was 11 years old. They began a sexual relationship when she was 13 and he was 18. Wow, this is totally like on this is on spec for Hollywood, isn't it, chat? So she had been reported missing from her family in February and April of 2024. The sheriffs in that county contacted David after they identified a phone number in her phone records that belonged to him. During the call, they claimed that he had spoken in February, but stated that he was unaware she was a minor or that she had been reported missing. Okay. On that day, the defendant was living at 804 Doheny Place in West Hollywood. The Riverside County Sheriffs requested the LA Sheriffs conduct a welfare check. They went to the home that night and informed him the victim was a 13-year-old runaway. David said he was unaware she was a minor and he'd only met her once in person. However, they showed deputies a yearbook photo of the victim he had on his cell phone. Although he claimed to be unaware the victim was at the time she returned home 2 days later. This is totally not yeah. Totally, not anything creepy. Despite being informed that she was 13, the defendant continued to pursue her. After the victim returned home, her parents took her cell phone away. The defendant drove to her house and paid a junior high school student in the victim's class $1,000 to give her a cell phone that he purchased so they could stay in contact. Throughout 2024, they spent a lot of time together, including summer weekends at his home and traveling with him to Las Vegas, London, and Texas to meet his family. Why wasn't he being charged with this crap? Like sexual contact with a minor, contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Why wasn't any of this happening? She's going to London. She's going to Texas. That's federal stuff. You're now trafficking a minor across state lines. That's R. Kelly level, man. We're at R. Kelly level stuff already. The text exchanges between the victim and defendant contain references to sex, pregnancy, abortion, and use of the Plan B. There are also explicit photographs documenting and corroborating their sexual relationship, also known as child porn, to quote the great Ethan Ralph. In 2024, defendant and David and the victim broke up, although they continue to communicate. Text messages also suggest they continue to have sexual relations. And guys, I'm not saying this is the Mann Act, but trafficking minors across state lines is like what Jared Fogle did. And it's like what R. Kelly was doing. So it wasn't the trafficking adult women, it's trafficking children. It's a bad, bad thing. April 23rd is a likely death of her likely date of death, and while all activity ceased. The night prior, the defendant and the victim engaged in a lengthy argument in detail in their text messages. The message revealed the victim's jealousy over defendant's relationships with other women. Once again, chat, this is a 14-year-old girl. As defendant told this 14-year-old, told her that they had a future together. She became upset and threatened to disclose damaging information about a relationship to end his career and destroy his life. Defendant's first studio album was due to be released on April 25th. He had an emerging multi-million-dollar career already in progress. Yeah, and being told, hey, he's fucking a 14-year-old. Well, actually, it depends. Hollywood might be like, based. But the rest of us would be like, ew. He had multiple product endorsements which were highly profitable. At approximately 8:40 p.m. on the 23rd, the defendant sent her an Uber to transport her from her house to his house. They communicated before and during her Uber ride, which dropped her off at his house around 10:10 p.m. At around 10:30 p.m., the defendant sent text messages inquiring where she was. Yeah, that seems a little goofy. They contend this was part of the plan to cover up the murder, as he was already dead. She was already dead at this time. Knowing they had to silence her before she ruined his career, very soon after her arrival, he stabbed her to death multiple times and stood by while she bled out. At no time did he call 911 or take any attempts to save her life. Despite knowing she was dead and her family was trying to find her, He lied and claimed he didn't know where she was. In fact, he drove to Santa Barbara immediately after died, attempting to dispose of her property and destroy evidence. At 11:30, he drove away from his home as he texted and called the victim's phone, asking where she was. Again, yes, once again, that's a plan to show, you're not here. A very short time, set up his very short timeline. He drove his Tesla north on the 101 to San Marcos Pass Road, near Lake Cahuma in Santa Barbara County. He returned home the following morning before going to a radio interview for the release of his album that week. He sent 2 additional texts to the phone, which obviously went unanswered because she was already dead. After April 26th, defendant never attempted to contact her again. Think about that. He murdered her, left her body to sit. And he's like, I got to go do I got to do my PR stuff. Oh, Kachuma. Okay, my bad. My apologies. Oh. Luke, I think there is a pretty good thing here. When she says, I'm going to tell everybody, I'm going to end your career and tell everybody about the relationship we have on the way over there. I'm sure he decided to kill her at that point in time. Remember, also premeditation. You can form the necessary mens rea for premeditation in an instant. It doesn't have to be extremely planned out. It doesn't have to be planned out. So. So. Okay. So. Let's keep going here. Am I going to cover the InfoWars stuff? Yes, P-Dub, because it's not over yet. It's not over yet. But I think there's going to be a lot of evidence there for that. Didn't he book the Uber while they were arguing? Yeah. And they were texting the whole time. Ultimately here, they say telling the defendant subsequently purchased tools to carry out his plot to dismember and dispose of the body. On April 24th, he ordered a shovel from Home Depot that was delivered to his home from Postmates. I told you guys have to keep, remember, everything you buy is going to get scrutinized. So you need to, I have a house. I have a shovel. I have, power tools. I have a circular saw I can chop people up with. That it's 10 years old. You got to have stuff ready to go, guys. You can't just buy this stuff and spur the moment. He ordered an Amazon subsequently delivered 2 chainsaws to his home. Now, see, I want to know with these 2 chainsaws, was he Wrangler Star and did a chainsaw burn down session? Which chainsaw can chop through a femur? Did he test them out? Option A is a steel 650. Option B is what would he another option would be my next option will be Husqvarna 435. And this one had, and he's I've got them both, chat, with an 18-inch bar on them because we don't really need all that leverage and length. We only got 18-inch bars on these. Let's see how well they do. The Steel Farm Boss first. Whoa, okay. God, that's, yeah, okay. He's not buying logging chainsaws, Johan. He's probably buying the smaller ones. Yeah, Milwaukee, we won't rat you out. Although, do you think, you only need, you don't, Yeah, but like they're by default probably going to come with an 18-inch bar. So you're not going to find them with like they're not going to buy them with a 12-inch bar. You're going to want the 18-inch bar. That's kind of like standard-ish. Um, I don't know why you'd want like, it's just, like you're not going to want shorter than that. Adam says, my wife says a 6-inch bar is plenty. Yeah, but that's not like what chainsaws normally come with, though. Like I said, you're going to want like an 18-inch bar probably. Like, because that's what they're going to come with. Like you're not customizing it. Do you think he had the mini battery powered chainsaws Nick was selling? I don't know. Do you think like he could test it and be like, oh, look, the kickback worked, chat. The chain break. No, I didn't. It'd be funnier if he bought the chaps too, but he didn't. He also ordered and Amazon subsequently delivered. And notice she's been dead for a while now. She got murdered on April 30th. She got murdered on. Oh, I missed the 6-inch joke. I'm sorry. We're talking about the tools, and I was being serious for a minute. The tism strikes again. Well, yeah, because I've never used a chainsaw with a 6-inch bar. I'm like, 18's kind of like normal, and then yeah, you can get like a 24-inch bar, and it's like that's like wielding a lightsaber. If it's like a Husqvarna, it's like zoom. A lot of fun. And yes, Chad, I have used chainsaws. I managed not to cut my legs off, so. But this though, she's been dead for over 7 days, and he gets a chainsaw. Already she's getting kind of ripe at that point, guys. She's already getting ripe at that point if she's been sitting for a couple of days. On May 5th, he ordered a body bag, heavy-duty laundry bags, and a blue inflatable pool. He made these purchases under the fake name Victoria Mendez. So notice it's even longer. Oh. Leaving his home, he returned to the area. This is an isolated site off State Route 154, where the victim of identification was subsequently discovered in January 2026. Additionally, on July 7th, he ordered and Amazon delivered a burn cage to his home under the same fake name of his part of his plan to incinerate evidence. Yeah. Moreover, the defendant took horrifying measures to destroy and discard her body. After placing the body in the blue inflatable pool to prevent her blood from spilling onto his garage floor, although she's been dead long enough, you have to worry about, like, by this point, by May 5th, this is like almost 2 weeks later. You got to start worrying about like her body bloating and like the juice leaking out of her. I don't know how he did that without causing problems. Like this is really like, how did he do this? I mean, I can't imagine. I just can't imagine this. How this worked. The defendant used a chainsaw and perhaps other tools to cut off her limbs. Small blue plastic fragments were found embedded in her remains, which were collected. These were analyzed by the LAPD's trace analysis unit, and they made a physical fit match from the blue fragments to the blue inflatable pool purchased by the defendant. In order to distance himself from the victim, he amputated her left ring and pinky fingers because her ring contained a tattoo of his name. Yep, as you guys talked about. Her fingers have not been recovered. The defendant then placed her torso and head in the cadaver bag. He then placed her limbs in a garbage bag, which he deposited in the front of his trunk, laying the cadaver bag on top because I guess he's worried the arms are gonna like try to get out after him. It's like the Thing in Addams Family. For several weeks or possibly months, he left her body to decompose inside his Tesla. He lied to friends and associates, others who noticed a strong smell of decay in and around his home and vehicle. Yeah, hey man, it smelled like, what's that smell? He's like, you don't smell nothing. Before leaving his concert, he parked his Tesla on the street around the corner from his home. The LAPD served a search warrant on September 17th after she was identified inside the garage. They discovered evidence consistent with the dismemberment. I'm sure that place, they sprayed some luminol and it was just when they turned on the black light. We talked about the KM test, though, and how you can get false positives for reactogens that would simulate a false positive for blood. I'm sure they were able to tell that was straight blood. It wasn't like he sprayed a lot of beet juice on the floor. They said it contained multiple linear cuts. Several biological samples which tested positive for blood were collected within the garage. DNA analysis determined they matched her unique profile. And then in December, they ruled her a homicide by 2 penetrating torso injuries. The victim's U.S. passport card was found by a Caltrans worker off State Route 154 in Barber County. The people will present the following evidence that there were photographs depicting her naked while she was engaged in sexual activity when she was 13. This constitutes CSAM or cheese pizza. Or, once again, what about the child porn? This is child porn. Whoa. Whoa. The photographs themselves will not be presented. While all charges that can be proven were not filed, the CSAM is proof of their ongoing relationship, which they should charge him with it anyway. Jesus. Yeah, where are this chick's parents? Yeah. So, numerous text messages between the victim and the defendant regarding the relationship and the use of Plan B. Messages proved the defendant continued to manipulate the victim. And she said, all we do is sex and just hang out. Man, I want more than that for myself. You're fucking, well, like, what the fuck do you want? Number one, you're 13. Like, you want to be his wife? Yeah, no, I know it's 10 terabytes of data. Yes, they talked about that when we went through the stuff last time around. Yes, there's all terabytes of data. I bet all kinds of videos. The cellular activity, which demonstrates the activities from the 22nd through the 24th, going at Santa Barbara County in the middle of the night after she arrived. Surveillance video of him driving his Tesla on July 29th for the last time. The pooled bloodstains on the garage. The proof of the Amazon purchases and deliveries to his residence. The proof of the purchases of a shovel from Home Depot. I wonder if he thought about, like, he was going to try to bury her at his house. And he's like, oh, wait, that's not going to work. Or I wonder if he tried to chop her up with the shovel. I don't know. Uber records showing the transaction where he ordered the Uber. The proof of his lucrative career as a singer and songwriter. The text messages where she threatened to expose and destroy his career. And they say this briefs to assist the court in understanding the scope and relevance. The prosecution has issued numerous subpoenas and prepared to proceed. The defense has had multiple opportunities to request a continuance, but has not done so. Furthermore, California requires the defense to provide at least 2 days' notice to request a continuance. In view of the limited scope, there should be no substantial impediment to moving forward with the hearing is scheduled. Whew. Well, there you go. So it's going to be interesting, chat. Brewberry says, how do you approach this case? You're going to have to attack the validity of the DNA. How was this stuff, was it properly collected? I mean, there's only so much you can do here. I mean, he's going down. But you're going to have to attack, like, did they collect the evidence properly? Did they test it properly? Did they do the proper things? Now, remember, this is the LAPD, and they got thumped by Barry Schenck. And that's something they've remembered from the OJ trial, 30 years ago. They remember that. That's trauma they remember. The LAPD is really good at this stuff. I bet they collected it properly. It's airtight. They tested it properly. David's done, man. He's going down. Like, I don't see, like, and here's the thing. I know people are like, oh, well, it's just their words. Yes. But if they were lying about this, like, holy cow, they're not lying about this. This is a lot of stuff. They wouldn't be saying all this if they didn't have it. So, yeah, David's going down. There's not much you can do. I mean, he's going to be going away forever. He's going away for life. There's really not an incentive to plea other than they might say we're taking away the death penalty. But that's not, they haven't necessarily said that they're making this automatically a death penalty eligible yet. Although that's still to come. So, I mean, they might offer him for life in prison without parole. He might do LWOP. But there's not a whole lot. You're not, I mean, maybe the search warrant's bad and you could argue the search warrant's garbage. But I doubt it. I mean, if it is, great. You attack it. Maybe you can get evidence suppressed, but odds are this was done right. So, yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's so yeah, it's not gonna work there. Yeah, I understand California's de facto life in prison. The death penalty is still on the table. It's just no governor has done the death penalty in I don't know. I think since Gavin Newsom's been president, he hasn't executed anybody. But it's still there. Everybody's been commuted, but the death penalty is still legal in California. So, the search of the cars is probably your starting point for the motion to suppress. I think so, but you're going to have a problem because smelling decomp, the guy in the tow yard knows, he's probably, when that guy is up there on the motion to suppress, and this is where it's going to turn into a thing of he's like, this isn't the first time I've smelled a body in a car, sir. How long you been the manager of the tow yard? 15 years. How many bodies have you come across? 10. I guarantee you it's happened enough in LA that this guy is running into bodies a lot. And I'm sure that the detectives who have come out, how long you been a robbery homicide detective? Okay, how long have you smelled bodies in a car? 1 million fucking times. They're gonna automatically have, they're gonna have exigent circumstances to open that, but they probably went ahead and got the search warrant anyway. We smelled decomp in this car. Yeah, hopefully the cops got a warrant for it, but yeah, we'll see. I don't think they're gonna be able to get, I assume the LAPD probably did this correctly. I mean, we're seeing this with the Tyler Robinson case and some of these other ones now, where we're back to finding out law enforcement generally is pretty competent at what they do. We're not looking at the bumbling detectives in Massachusetts. We're dealing with the Utah police, and the FBI overall are doing, a guy getting shit sniped. And then in this case, the LAPD dealing with a singer, a famous celebrity murdering a 13-year-old. That's kind of this is their bread and butter. So I'm assuming the search warrant's probably going to be pretty solid. All the techniques and everything they did are going to be solid. And yeah, David's going to be toast. So he's probably looking at LWOP. Luke says, "Is a body exigent circumstances you can't make them any more or less dead? You could argue as abandoned. Yeah, but you could also argue evidence being destroyed. I mean, you're well, I don't know. They're is there another person in there? There's a body. We need to know what's going on. Is there somebody alive in there? I mean, I don't think so, but I mean, I could see them making that argument. But presumably they went and got the warrant. Who knows? Who knows, though? We don't know. Maybe they fucked it up. Oh, yes, I agree. That guy in Texas who, the FedEx driver who abducted the girl and she's on camera in the back of the truck, scared and crying, and then he kills her on camera. Yeah, that guy should get the death penalty. I don't know why that thing has taken 14 days, but yes. P-Dub says the last use in Cali was probably pre-72. No. California's executed people since then. The last execution was in 2006. So, yeah, they use it, man. They've used it. If he does get convicted and is given the death penalty, it's possible it'll happen. Yeah. So, Can it be argued she killed herself and he was just trying to clean it up because of the CSAM? I mean, is he gonna argue, "Oh, she killed herself," and I just no, because nobody's gonna buy that. I'm also sure the stab wounds are in a way where you don't normally like it looked like they were, like, in the lower rib cage. You don't kill yourself by stabbing yourself down here. People, number 1, you don't kill yourself generally with a bladed weapon, and if you do, you've gotta be, like, super stoked to do it like a samurai, and you're, like, in your abdomen. But as you're doing that, somebody's coming by with the katana for the mercy blow to the head. So, no, I don't think anybody's going to buy that theory. No one's going to buy that theory. Um, so whatever it is, I'm sure there's going to be it's going to be clearly wounds, and most people don't stab themselves, and women don't normally do these kind of women generally commit suicide in very mundane ways. Like typically when there's firearms involved, women don't shoot themselves in the head. Women actually shoot themselves in the chest. Is actually a very common way women will commit suicide with a gun. So women commit you women out there, you do it differently. You do it differently. Well, you're built different, not in a good way. Um, well, how does the how does the ME know those stab wounds are perimortem? Um, I'm assuming because those are probably the only significant trauma to the body. She probably doesn't have like a skull fracture that shows like brain trauma killed her. She probably doesn't show any other damage to her body that indicates really heavy trauma killed her. Maybe David cut her legs off while she was alive and she bled to death. I doubt it. I'm betting that's the only identifiable markings on her are those stab wounds. Because otherwise she had to die somehow. If I had to guess. Um, I'm just issue spotting for hypothetical. No, I understand, but this is where I'm telling you what I would assume this evidence is going to show here. I mean, it's just probably obvious. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of trauma from the chainsaw markings, but I think it's going to be clear. Like, if she was alive when he cut her legs off or her arms off, she'd have been like, ah! And there's going to be like blood all over the walls and shit. And I'm sure that's not what happened. She was dead, and he just went, zzz, zzz. And you wonder if he cut him off. Did he cut him off at the same time? Or do you think he like cut one leg off and he like went over and cut the other side? And he's like, shit, they're not even. So then he has to try to like even him off and even her up. um, yeah. So I think that's there. They don't want to mess up all the Botox. Luke says the body's decomposed to shit, like an overdose. I mean, you're going to have to show theories that she had drug use in her life. And then it's this idea that this 13-year-old you're banging magically died and then you chopped her up. I don't, like that one's going to be a tough sell because every story he's going to tell involves, well, yes, this 13-year-old that I was fucking, by the way, also was doing heroin. It's like, everybody's going to be like, hold on, whoa. Back it up. And that's you're guilty. So I don't think that's going to work for him. I don't think it's going to work for him there. Oh, did he take a bite? I wonder. Probably not that point. Probably not at that point. She's kind of like, it's not like she desiccated and became beef jerky. By that point, she's kind of like people 2 weeks in, your body bloats and you're just a sack full of goo at that point. And not the kind of goo Aaron Imhold eats. Although, Aaron be like, this doesn't taste the same. Oh. Let me see here. It's not dry age, no. Let me see here. Fair Frozen says, we ain't got evidence alone would put him in jail for life. No. No, but having all the CP on his, phone will probably put him in jail forever. Because no, just desecrating a corpse and like tampering with the crime scene, those are the things he'd be facing at that point. But no, obviously he did a lot more than that. But yeah, like having the CP would be a bigger issue, I think, for him. So we'll see about that. We'll see. Yes, he did a Pulp Fiction. I agree. Let's see. What did I miss here? EDW is for the goal. Thank you. IG88 for $4.99 says, Sean, how does one explaining only a full auto M16 trigger group and Sear pilot hole jig asking for my FBI handler? Well, it's a little bit of a tough sell. It's a bit of a tough sell. But then again, that's like owning the STL files for the Yankee Boogle, the 3D printed auto sear, and having a 3D printer and having AR-15 lowers. It's like, yeah, I mean, you're kind of getting there, although that's still, you haven't done it yet, but I don't know if you want to explain that. Get rid of your FBI handlers, my recommendation. They are mortal. Bullets do stop them. Amateur Iconoclast says the mini chainsaw would explain the missing fingers. Yeah, but you can also use bolt cutters to cut off fingers. That's a common thing. Or like shears, shears that'll cut through branches and stuff. You can cut off fingers, having been involved in, murder cases a couple of times. Removing fingers is not the hardest thing in the world. That's actually pretty easy. Radcon Hazard says there's a Thomas the Tank Engine event in Essex, Connecticut in a few days. Thought you might want to go. That's a long way to Connecticut, so I appreciate it, but no thank you. Chugi says he should get the chair. Oh, well, yeah, he should. And thank you for being here. 16 months. He should get the chair. Afton for $5. Thank you, Afton. Hope you're doing well, says Clyde Love. Of course. And Coffee Cat for $10 says, whoa, buddy. Yes. Whoa, buddy, indeed. So, yeah, David's probably going away. I mean, he's going away. I don't know how he's going to get around this. He's got, like I said, he's got, the same attorneys that, Prince Andrew had, that Harvey Weinstein had. They're not going to be able to fix this. It's over. I don't see, he could want to go down in flames, but I guess he wants to go down in flames, but he's not walking out of this with a not guilty, chat. Of all the things that are going to happen, that's not going to happen. So, a cigar cutter, yeah. Tin snips, yep. Tin snips would work too. But a pruning shear would be a lot sharper and quicker, I bet. Did this dude snap? Why did he do this, DK? Because the girl was like, I want to be more than just somebody you fuck. And he kept playing with her. And she's like, if you don't start being serious with me, I'm going to tell everybody you're fucking a 14-year-old. And I'm sure at that point, she's like, I'll ruin your career. So he killed her over it. I mean, this reads like a fucking episode of Law and Order, SVU. It totally reads like that. Kitchen shears cut up chicken just fine. Yeah, but I don't, yeah, you could. Yeah, he was fucking a 13-year-old. She wanted more. Yeah, the whole thing is just weird. No, no, Brimstone. You have not missed it. We have not gotten there yet. So, David says, I'm going away. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're going away, David. There is a... Oh, wow. Okay. There's only one failed dentist turned lawyer who could save me, but I don't think he's licensed in California. I get that reference. That's very funny, sir. That's very funny. Ratcheting shears are okay, but heavy tree pruners are best. Yeah. But honestly, though, yeah, just a ratcheting, just ka-chink, ka-chink, ka-chink. They cut pretty good. Oh. Courtney Candle says, wouldn't a pedophile child killer be a death penalty in jail regardless of sentencing? He's going to 100% be in protective custody. He's not going to be allowed out in the open. Like, they're not going to allow that. He's going to be protected. Like, they're not going to risk him like that. So, no, he's basically probably going to be in solitary the whole time. And he's going to be heavily guarded as they move him around. You can probably find some mortician shoes for cracking rib cages. Yeah, but if you do that, like, like if you get if you have like the full my body dismemberment kit and you buy it over time, they're gonna notice that. But like, for example, like I have pruning shears, I have a power saw, I have a circular saw, I have a sawzall, I have a couple of hatchets, I got a couple of saws that can cut. Yeah, I could do things to dismember a body you might not be like, you wouldn't be able to connect the dots I bought shit for. But like when you go out and like immediately buy like chainsaws and shit, like you're kind of giving the game away, guys. Like you should be prepared. Like you could kill somebody right now and try to chop. You might not sanitize your crime scene, but like, could you chop up a body in your garage right now if you had to? That's kind of the standard you have to be at in the mindset of like, oh, I wonder if I can get away with committing a murder. I'm going to drag a body in there. You got 30 minutes to chop it up. And this is not going to be like in Goodfellas where you can hose out the back of the trunk and nobody's going to know any better. No, like you've got to be good. You've got to be good at it. So, you got to be down. You got to be DTF chat the whole way through. You got to be DTF from the word go. You got to be DTF before it even happens. I'm about to have the FBI at my door. I mean, is this it? Not talking about, how to attack a political campaign event with a remotely timed mortar using water pipe. That's not going to get me a visit from the FBI. This ain't. You got to have enough plastic. Yeah. Like you've painted before, so you got a bunch of sheeting you could lay down. Yeah, you got to have to clean too, but that's the first thing. TEDx says, what's DTF? Down to fuck. Are you down to fuck? Or as Marshawn Lynch, is famously said, I'm just about that action, boss. Are you about that action? Are you down to fuck? Are you ready to do it? Like, okay, we're doing it now. And you'd be like, well, no, I'm not ready. Too late. The body's in your garage. We're doing it. We're doing it. We're doing it live. So. Nero says, if you come to the stream, you should be expected to be put on a list. Yeah, that happens. Deutsch Chad says, fuck yeah, I am DTF for a body. Well, there you go. All right. Yeah, don't talk about it, be about it. That's true. Yeah. Very true. Very true, Chad. All right. Moving on from there. This is Kathy, your realtor in Jersey. Guys, remember, buy, sell, leasing, renting, anything involving the right of season. Once again, we're, the time-honored tradition under English common law where you would hand, as the property owner, to the new owner a clod of dirt signifying his ownership, the right of season. You were entitled to that. You could demand that happen. It used to be a thing. You would demand the right of season. That's the thing. Kathy is your woman in New Jersey to hit up. Guys, show Kathy some love, about that. For $10. Says, does 2.0 know you have a full Home Depot tool aisle? Yeah, she knows I got a... Yeah, she knows. In fact, she had one of her, like, for my birthday a couple years ago. Had one of her friends who does, like, handyman stuff built me a workbench, complete with, like, a vise, and the vise was grounded into a big metal sheet, a big metal plate that was on top of part of the workbench, so I could weld and do stuff on it with the sparkle box I have because I like to fuck around with it. Yeah, I mean 2.0 is all about that. She's amazing. So yeah, she knows I have all that stuff. So, but thank you, Kathy. Happy, it's not my birthday yet, not for another couple months. Oh. Yes, I'm like Jeremy, and I'm going to make her pack everything for the move. Yes. I'm going to make her carry everything out, like making her pack all the ammo and all the guns. Do I have 80s pegboard? No, I do not. Why is this so, like, delayed? No, I don't have 80s pegboard. I subscribe to the Empire of Dirt theory of a tool bench. It's like my tool bench is just covered in, like, all kinds of shit right now. Like, I've got part of a longbow that I was working on, that I realized I needed to wait till I get a little more humidity in the air before I really started chopping away on it. I've got all kinds of crap all over it. So, no, it's a mess. I'm not Hank Hill. C3 Metal Thingy says, happy birthday. Thank you for $2. Oh, you guys. Gixer Squid for $4.99 says, can they detect pregnancy with a decomposed body? I mean, if you could find, unless the skeleton of the baby was in there, probably not, because remember, a couple of months in, your body is just it's mush inside, like the internals, like maybe, but they're not going to be able to test hormonally because all that stuff would have broken down in her system. I mean, maybe, and like if that was already out there, I'm assuming they would have told us about it. But yeah, it's been a long time, so maybe, like, but it's gonna be tough. It'd be tough, and a lot of that would depend on like how pregnant she was. But I don't think there's any indication she was pregnant at that time. It's just he probably made her take Plan B a lot of time as a thing. But yeah, thank you for the super chats. Good question. Good question. Very good question. All right, guys, moving on to the next thing here. Well, the next thing. This is kind of weird here. From from the British. The British this is something I just don't understand, but okay. The British government has banned smoking for anybody born after 2008. Yes, that's exactly what's happened here. It's a tobacco and vaping bill, which is now passed, it passed Parliament. So they are completing this here. So under this bill, anybody born after January 2009 will never be able to legally buy tobacco across the UK. And it's to save lives, but notice the bigger problem: reduce the burden on the national health system. Oh, wow, you mean with the socialized medicine? Wait, why can't it work? So officially, it'll become legislation when it sees royal assent, but that's not really its formality ultimately here. But they say, well, hope will end the sale of tobacco products altogether and break the cycle of blah, 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 blah. So what does this mean, though? Ultimately, if you're not allowed to sell it, and if you sell it, you get penalized. If you are somebody born, 30 years from now, if you're born, today, 30 years from now, if you buy tobacco, you're not in trouble. The guy selling it to you is in trouble. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be one of those reverse It's going to be one of those reverse, like the smoking, the drinking things. And, it's just going to keep following along. And eventually it's going to be like, if you're not old looking, you're not going to be able to buy stuff. So it's going to be interesting in that. But yes, notice they're making everything illegal. And this is totally going to crack down on it. Yeah. So others can purchase. Yeah, that's the thing. Anybody can sell it or buy it. You possessing it is not the problem. Homegrown tobacco is about to get real popular. I don't think England would be very tough. Britain would be a very tough environment to grow tobacco in. That it would not be the proper climate for it. I mean, remember the I just Googled, can you grow tobacco in the UK? You're gonna need greenhouses for that. But otherwise, it's not the best place to grow. There's a reason why tobacco is grown in better locations, especially warm places. Remember, the UK is at the same latitudes as like Alberta, Canada. Like it's like if they didn't have the Gulf Stream and the Mid-Atlantic currents going through, it would be like living in Canada in the winter. It would be fucking awful there. So that's why they have pretty mild winters. Yes, banning drugs worked well. Yes, Britain's eyeing up to take Virginia back. Yes. Ag says you could grow tobacco in a growth chamber. Yeah, but it'd be tough. It'd be tough. I think tobacco is probably a lot harder to grow than weed. I'm pretty sure. But you'd also have to grow a lot of leaves. And it takes a long time because remember, it's not only just like you grow it, you harvest the leaves, then you have to hang it and dry it. Like tobacco is a long, long process. Not like weed where you can grow it and get into it pretty quick. Tobacco's a very long time. So it's easier just to smuggle out tobacco or whatever. Yeah. Yep. Joe says, how am I going to transport the anvil down to Florida? We have a moving company where all our shit's getting moved. It's like the gun safe. Like they're going to load that up too. They're going to load the anvil. It's only 150 pounds, so it's not too bad. So, yeah, the plant gets massive. It takes 6 months to go, and then drying takes a while. Yeah. No, I understand the same drying process, but I don't think the length of time for tobacco is longer than for marijuana. I'm pretty sure. Although I don't know anybody who's grown tobacco. So, yeah, I was going to say it's got to be a lot harder. I'm pretty sure it's harder to cure and age than cannabis. So, yes, I'm moving to Florida 2.0 with 2.0. So, where Tiger Rates says, how easy to get tobacco into Britain? I don't know, but if you let a bunch of migrants come in on their little life rafts with it, I bet they're allowed to bring it in. So we'll find out. Bob Tube says Australia is literally in the middle of a tobacco war. 120 tobacco farmers have had arson attacks. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. I've picked up tobacco leaves off the road in the South, rolled up and smoked it. Yeah, but if it's not like you can do that, but a dried tobacco leaf is a lot better for that. So, Jamie Moodley for 35 South African Rand says South Africa banned the sale of cigs during COVID. The minister involved has ties to the black market. She ruined the local industry, and now the black market rules. Yeah, that's how that works. That's how that works. Good to see you, Jamie. Hope you're doing well. Yes. Well, actually, when you think about it, chat, the bigger thing here is, you know what this is at the end of the day? Britain is banning fags. No fags allowed in Britain. That's actually, when you think about it, no fags allowed. Oh, chat. Yeah, everybody's like, well, wait, this isn't that bad now when you think about it. So they, there's going to be bans on smoking. It'll be extended to children's playgrounds and outside schools and hospitals. Okay. Yeah, I mean, like, that makes sense. The move will also ban vapes and nicotine pouches from being banded, promoted to advertise to children. I mean, where are their vapes being sold to kids? How are they doing that? I don't know. And it's so that they don't become addicted to nicotine. Some vaping people have said this could encourage ex-smokers to start using tobacco again. So yeah, and notice the guy founder of We Vape. It's like, these are douchebags. The douche flute lobby. It is vital the government protect vape flavors, which remain the single most effective incentive for adult smokers to make the switch. And it's like, really, is that really what you want? Is that really what you want here? Like, the vaping industry, it's just water vapor. Oh gosh, it's so funny. So this is just a pretext of banning the word fag. Next, they'll ban those meatballs known as faggots. Oh, yeah. Fire and Ice says here in Belgium, kids will buy the vapes and cigs and sell them to underage kids. Oh, interesting. Well, hey, at least they're helping each other out. I mean, that's good news. Like, the kids are working together. Yes, Sir Walter Raleigh spins at his grave. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. Oh. Some good news there, chat. Some good news. Oh. Says, are we... Katie says, oh, yeah, it worked. No fair, don't let me say fag. Well, it just did. So, but yes, it's just interesting they're doing it. Interesting they're doing that. So, all right, moving back to America where real stuff happens and real patriots. Speaking of patriots, out on the front line, chat, out there fighting the globalists, breaking the conditioning, and keeping America safe out there. Alex Emmerick Jones, the Frogman. Still fighting that good fight. He will not go gently into that good night. He is raging against the globalist light. And the darkness of globalism, the globalist darkness that's just coming across our world, where the pedophile cabals are going to rape and eat our children, along with the interdimensional psychic vampires and their pot-bellied goblins. So, here we go, chat. This is some good news, because if you guys weren't aware, The Onion had bought, The Onion was taking over InfoWars. If you guys know who Tim Heidecker is, the Tom Goes to the Mayor guy, being a fucking goober, they were going to take it over. They've been like dabbing and getting ready to do it and cause all kinds of problems. Well, and they wanted, to skinwalk in the corpse. Apparently, they think it's going to be something important. Well, what happens here, chat? Well, it's all on hold now because some base judges come in. Well, yes, there's Tim and Eric, but there's also Tom Goes to the Mayor. That was another show. So, but anyways, Alex Jones of Free Speech Systems versus the Applees. And then also all of these people down here. It says a memorandum of opinion order per curiam. There are a bunch of appeals. Remember, because they went through Texas state courts to go and attack these things while the federal actions were pending. And it says the court abates the appeal and remands the cause of trial court to take evidence and make findings regarding the bond contest. They say the evidence and findings shall include events occurring in the trial court's order on the plaintiff's objection, to the network's declarations and motions for sanctions. And this court's order staying the turnover remains in effect. This temporarily stays the turnover in the other cases, pending further order in the appellant's emergency motion for immediately stay of void orders issued in violation of the bankruptcy stay. Because remember, Alex Jones is in bankruptcy. But what did they do? They went ahead to state court, and the state court was saying, go ahead, take it. It's like, wait, you can't do that. Well, the Court of Appeals is getting involved, chat. The Court of Appeals is getting involved. So, and they say an appellate court may issue temporary orders to preserve parties' rights. It is ordered. So, chat. Suffer. And it's funny because you go to places like Mother Jones, these little fucking commies, and they're like, the Onion's plan to take over InfoWars is once again in jeopardy. Oh no! The emergency court handed a victory to Alex Jones, at least for now. And you're just like, suffer! It's great. It's great. But yes, InfoWars will stop broadcasting because no one's currently paying the rent. Yes. And today is the last day of operation for InfoWars. So chat, F's in the chat for InfoWars. F's in the chat. Just Godspeed, Alex Jones. Godspeed. F's in the chat. So I don't know. The Frogman will survive. He will endure. They put out the Global Tetrahedron, the company that owns The Onion, said that they reached an agreement with the federal receiver overseeing InfoWars, and the deal would allow them to create a new LLC to lease the InfoWars physical studio as well as its IP, meaning the names, the copyrights, trademarks, all that stuff. Remember, the intellectual property, InfoWars is now owned by them. So Alex Jones can't use InfoWars anymore, but he can do the Alex Jones show. He can do all kinds of things. But the plans still need to be agreed by a judge. And remember, they did this for a small amount of money, and they believe that they are going to be able to sell merchandise, apparently. And what are they doing? Well, some of the stuff they've showed is like they're going to do the InfoWars on Yeti mugs, but it's going to be in rainbow LGBT colors. And it's like, I don't think you realize most people aren't going to want this. And remember, these Sandy Hook families, the cocksuckers they are, went after a man for free speech. And the courts in Connecticut fucked him over. So the Frogman, hear me out. Hear me out. It's like Don Draper. Wait. Hear me out. InfoWars 2. So yeah, they're yeah, this is all just bullshit. This is all bullshit. Yes, but now who's going to sell me emergency buckets of dehydrated chocolate pudding? Well, Alex Jones can still do that. But yes, remember, chat, he owes over $1.5 billion. Remember, guys, Alex Jones still owes more money than Boeing did for the 737 MAX debacle, where almost 400 people were killed because of their refusal to properly, engineer their airplanes and negligently put code in the computers. But Alex Jones owes more money than they do. And the InfoWars studio is $81,000 in rent a month. But yes, Alex Jones has done a real site, Real Alex Jones. And he's and it's here we go. Alex
news that just warms my heart and still gives me faith in America and our legal system. The Onion, backed by the Democrats and Bloomberg for the second time in a year and a half, after fraudulently claiming that they own and run InfoWars, another giant hoax, has had their attempt to take us over slapped down by the Third Texas Court of Appeals. This is
and that's really it there, chat, if you want to see it. But it's ultimately, it's probably all going to go through. I doubt there's going to be any attempts to destroy this or over, like the bankruptcy is going to go through. So, we're going to have to suffer, chat. Turn it off. What do you not like the globalist agenda being defeated by Alex Jones, the real patriot out there? I just don't understand your problem, sir. What is your problem out there? Do you not like it? Oh. How about Le Infowars? Alex Jones has entered his yes, McAfee in Costa Rica era. Yes, he's entered his arc there. Now he just needs to be on a boat all the time with a shotgun. Yes, that's gonna be great. Oh. Prison Pen, is that IP still Alex Jones's? No, I bet it all is. I bet it's all gone. I think it's gone too. But yes, remember, he made an FBI agent cry, which I think is still fucking insane. One of the people who got money was a poor widow FBI agent. I hope that guy gets shot in the fucking face at some point. That would be hilarious. So, yes, are we going to cover Candace Owens? Very, very briefly, because that lost, TLDR. The head of Charlie Kirk Security sued Candace Owens and some fucking weird goober who was making shit up about him. He sued them today for defamation, amongst a bunch of other things. So yeah, Candace Owens is probably facing the beginning of her downward arc starting now. She's just nosediving. So that's going to happen. I want to cover that as a separate thing. So, Mario, how you doing? Says, I was on that case in Connecticut. Yes, I rep the co-defendant Genesis Communications. How you doing, man? Yeah, I know. Also Norm. What's that guy's name? Norm. He was Alex Jones' attorney. But yes. I never stopped being based. I think Paul Joseph Watson has Prison Planet. Interesting. Anonymous says, did Alex Jones have the ability to appeal at all? I mean, he did, but the courts were like, they default. Like, he was never good. Like, do you think any court in Connecticut's going to give him the shake that he deserves? No. He got laughed out of court. So, yeah. That's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. But yeah, Mary, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well out there. Maybe I'll call in and can explain. There are nuances. Well, yeah, one day if you'd like to, certainly. I mean, if you're willing to. I think I still have your email. Let me see. Let me double check here. Oh, yep, I still have your stuff. Yep. We'll do that here coming up. So, good to see you, man. Yeah, hope you're doing well out there. Also involved in oh god, what was his name? Oh, what was that? Fucking the guy who pretended to have a British lawyer. God, what was his name now? I can't remember it. The guy on the internet who crashed and burned, partially. Well, no, yeah. Well, Mark Randazza, no, but yeah, you know who I'm talking about. You represented the guy, and found out it was no, this is not Afro Man's lawyer. It's another base guy with a beard. I thought it was the guy who lied about being British. No, he was British, but he lied about being a lawyer. Was it Pirate Software? Yeah, it was Pirate Software. Okay, it was. I forgot. Yeah. Yes, it was Norm Pettis. Yes, Norm Pettis represented Alex Jones in Connecticut. Yeah. Yes, Maldavius Fig Tree. Yes. The man who runs Ferret Auschwitz. He runs a ferret rescue where they all die. It's a death camp for ferrets. Yes, Pirate Software's head moderator. There we go. I remember that. I wish it was Ryan Dunn. Ryan Dunn's been dead for a long time. So, anyways, yeah, his guy Kronos. There we go. Thank you, chat. Thank you. I was like, what the? I was like, all sorts of fucking discombobulated there. So, you said the guy who crashed and burned. Yeah, no, I know that didn't help. Yeah. So. Okay, guys. So, we're going to keep moving here. We're going to keep moving. What happened with the Reddit mod thing? We're doing that tomorrow. The Reddit mods are toast, though. They are fucked. All right, guys. Now, moving on. This is a bit of a preview of what's going to happen in the future here. Regarding the lawfare we're going to see. And I guarantee you this is going to start happening in the new if there's a Democrat presidential administration coming out, we're going to see a bunch of this. But it sounds like, in the aftermath of COVID and the investigations, there was a lot of fuckery by the government. And those, remember, Anthony Fauci got a massive pardon, and we're like, what do you need that for, bro? Well, we're starting to see things now. Ex-NIH official David Morans is accused of concealing emails about risky virus research. Me and the gain-of-function research we were doing with the Chinese. But he's charged with conspiring to evade records requests, which you might say, wait, is that a problem? Yes. If you're trying to hide from FOIA, this is actually a big... It's one thing for the government not to process your request. But if you destroy records to hide... Oh, man, that's not good. Anyways, this is him. And we're going to get to this here real quick. Because he got, this is a pretty interesting indictment from this guy. It got filed, and this is kind of like broken big recently, guys, so you're aware. So what did he get charged with here? Well, this is where it starts getting kind of seriously serious. Conspiracy against the United States, destruction, that's, remember, 18 U.S.C. 371 conspiracy, destruction and falsification of records, concealment or removal or mutilation of records, and aiding and abetting. So this was filed under seal. And he just got charged about 2 days ago. Now, this is interesting backgrounds on things. So here we go, guys. Giving you an idea. And this will set the scene for all this so you can find what this guy did. Trump declared a nationwide emergency because of SARS-CoV-2, also known as COVID-19, also known as the Wuhan flu, the COOF, whatever you want to call it. On or about March 15th, 2020, states began to implement restrictive measures to prevent the spread of the virus. We all remember that. That's the crazy thing, chat. We're talking about stuff we all remember. And just remember how crazy it got. Remember how crazy it got, you guys. Remember, like, fucking toilet paper was shortaged. Yeah, I used to call it the panda plague. Okay, yeah. The China virus, because it's from China. The Wu flu. Yep. You guys remember that. People like the, toilet paper, everything. Everything. I remember I got really sick around like the beginning of March too. I thought felt like I was dying. Like I was like sickest I'd ever been. I remember though, like courts closed, everything. Schools were closed, millions became sick, and over 1 million Americans died. And as the nation braced itself, it sought answers. The pandemic had a profound effect. And as explained here, David M. Morans, co-conspirator 1 and co-conspirator 2. I'm betting one of these people is fucking Anthony Fauci. But we don't know yet. They say the Institute of NIAID was an agency that was part of the NIH, a component of HHS. They played a role in leading the response. They were responsible for identifying and responding to public health threats. And the office of the director was located on the NIH campus in Bethesda, Maryland. Morans was a doctor for much of his career was a federal employee. From 1972 to 82 and 98 to 2021, he served in the U.S. Public Health Service, which is a branch of the military, Chad. If you did not know that, that is one of the uniformed services in the U.S. military. You actually hold a military commission. It ultimately reached the rank of captain, and it's captain in the naval sense. You're not like a captain as like an 03 in the Army where you're like a company commander. No, captain as in like the rank of colonel. From 83 to 98, Morin's with the U.S. Army Reserve, where he reached the rank of lieutenant colonel. And then from about 2006 through 2022, he was senior advisor to senior NIAID official 1 and the office of the director. Gee, I wonder who that is. I wonder who that might be. Makes you wonder, chat. Makes you wonder. But yes, there are 7 uniformed services. Yes. And most people don't realize that. But yes, there's the normal ones you think of: the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, the 4. Then you have the Coast Guard. You have the Public Health Service. You have NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, is a military brand. They have uniformed officers. And God, what's the 8th one? I forget. But we have quite a few actually. Interestingly enough, this guy was not pardoned though, but Anthony Fauci was. Oh, Space Force. Yeah, there we go. Space Force. Yes. So there you go. No, I said the Public Health Service. So his duties as senior advisor were broad. He advised senior official number 1 and other senior level NIAID staff on a host of things, involving the full range of long-term and major disease-related activities. His task included advising senior level policies, developing recommendations. He provided guidance and expertise to senior staff on epidemiological studies, meaning the studies of diseases and how they spread. And all this, and you're like, okay, wow, this guy was kind of important, and things involving issues of the public, Congress, and the scientific communities. He advised the senior official for meetings with officials from Congress, the White House, the NIH, HHS, and other federal agencies. He was responsible for ensuring that senior official 1 was provided with sound alternatives for courses of action. As senior advisor, he gathered information from grantees, meaning people receiving grants and others in the community, to establish facts regarding the nature of COVID-19. To understand the historical activities in coronavirus research, assisted formulating policy, helping that person, official 1, brief others, including the President of the United States, Congress, and the public. Gee, I wonder who that is. I wonder who that is, chat. I wonder who that is. Who do you think this is? Who do you think this is? As part of his duties, Moritz authored and co-authored numerous papers regarding the outbreak and advocated for continued surveillance of animal populations, like bats, to detect the source of coronavirus. Oh, yes, because the wet markets, because the Chinese are fucking heathens. Notice, they are. But yes, it was a pangolin. No, it was the fucking NIH laboratory in Wuhan. We should have bombed the 3... Think about this, chat. If we had bombed the Three Gorges Dam in 2020, like at the beginning of 2020, guess what would have happened? If you follow the Yangtze River, which is what the Three Gorges Dam blocks up, it would have wiped Wuhan off the map, and we wouldn't have had coronavirus. So Trump should have done it. Killed 500 million Chinamen to protect America. He should have done it. He should have done it. Should have done it. Just something to think about. Something to think about. Co-conspirator number 1 was the president and chief executive officer of Company 1. Co-conspirator 1 was a resident of New York. Company was a nonprofit organization headquartered in New York, Newark, with a stated mission of protecting people, animals, and the environment from emerging infectious diseases. Co-conspirator number 1 researched the organs, transmissibility, virility, and impacts of emergent factors, including those associated with coronavirus. Imagine that sounds like, is that EcoHealth Alliance? I don't know. And a notice of award dated then. They awarded grant number 1. Understand? Oh, actually, we can look this up. I didn't think. Okay. Is that EcoHealth? Let's see. NIH grant number 1R01 A11. That's actually AI 11 0964. Huh. Let's see here. Well, let's see what this says, chat. I think this. Well, let's see what this says here. Okay, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases. Okay, discretionary. Who are they giving it to? Huh. 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 Well, you have that, I guess. I didn't type in Eco Health Alliance, but guess what we see? Oh no, chat. Uh-oh. Oh. Yeah. That's Peter Daszak and the Eco Health Alliance. Oh, yeah. Wow. Wow, isn't that great? With the droplets, Dr. Fauci. Well, we could have read a little more here. Co-conspirator 1 was a project director and investigator for the grant of that at the Wuhan Institute of Virology in Wuhan, China, received a sub-award. So it was the Eco Health Alliance. Wow, chat. Conspirator number 2 was an individual known to the grand jury, was a physician, scientist, professor who worked for an academic institution, also received grants, but not for the bat coronavirus grant. Wow. These people need to be fucking J-damned. Like, just have the fucking Predator drone drop a fucking small diameter bomb on these people. Find them and fucking snuff them out. Co-conspirator 2 is a co-investigator with 1 on a grant application filed by company 1 in June of 2019 and awarded during the summer of 2020. Huh. Huh. Well, let's see here. Huh. It really just makes you wonder, Chad. It just makes you wonder. When you look at this, like, who did what and what's going on here. You get the information about these. Like, what are these people doing? You're like, I don't know. I don't know. What is this thing? What does it do? What it do? What it do, chat? What it do? Use the Hellfire with the missile blades? Yeah. What are the bioweapons for? Well, remember, they do this to make up, they argue they could do this so that way they can do better on things. Yeah, this is, yeah. So, they talk about the Federal Records Act. So the preservation of federal records is crucial to accountability and transparency. And recognizing this, Congress enacted the FRA in 1950. Federal records encompass all recorded information, regardless of form or characteristics, made or received by a federal agency under federal law, or in connection with a transaction of public business and preserved for appropriate preservation by that agency. In accordance with federal law, there were safeguards established against removal or loss of federal records that were deemed to be necessary by regulations by the National Archivist. Now, remember, this is the nonsense where Trump got in trouble. So, the archives, NARA, is a thing. Remember, chat. And hold on 1 second here. Okay. So, the safeguards make it known that records in the custody agency are not to be alienated or destroyed, except in accordance with law, and the penalties provided by law for the unlawful removal and destruction. So you get trained on this. You get told about this. You are prohibited, if you're in an executive agency, for creating, sending a record using non-official electronic messaging, unless you copied an official electronic messaging account of the officer and the creation of that record. So if you're sending out an email, you can't go to fire up your Yahoo account and send it out there. You have to CC your whitehouse.gov account. But this is something everybody fucking does. This happens all the time. Remember, James Brennan, when he was a CIA director, was still using a fucking AOL account and got caught using it. This happens all the fucking time with everybody. Nero says the virus is already well into China by late 2019. Fine, then we bomb the three. Like, we go back in time. Mr. President Donald Trump, January 1st, 2019, hit the Three Gorges Dam. Just put a couple of fucking nuclear tomahawks at the base of it and just do it. Just do it. Could have protected the world. Could have protected the world. And we didn't do it. So, the NIH provides yearly training. And according to the training Moorings received, the interactions between the NIH and its staff are also captured through federal records. He was instructed that if information or materially facilitated agency business, then it was a federal record. He was instructed if he wasn't sure, he should consult a record liaison. He was also informed that federal records could be any form, such as electronic formats. Federal records are the property of the federal government. They are. They're not yours. And you're required to store records in agency-approved keeping systems. Email records were required to be created or sent using an account. And he was not to use personal email. This is true of everybody. We hear this, and this is the thing, every administration does this, especially in the White House. They use their own fucking emails because fuck you, that's why. And they think that they're above it. This is not uncommon, chat. Like, everyone does this. And this is something we deal with all the time. It says he was further advised that records were only considered personal files if the materials were not used to conduct agency business. Personal files included materials created outside your responsibilities. So his collection of short stack goblin porn, that's all protected. Personal files were required to be kept separate from federal records. Within the NIH, most records were temporary records that could be destroyed after a required period. To manage disposal, the NIH adopted the capstone approach. For non-capstone employees, such as Moorings, the holding period was generally 7 years. However, the NIH was required by law to suspend any destruction of records responsive to a FOIA request until the request is satisfied. Any email deleted or removed before the 7-year retention was an unauthorized destruction. And then we get to FOIA. And FOIA is to ensure an informed citizenry, vital to the functioning of a democracy, the need to check against corruption, and hold governors accountable to the governed. Yes. You know, who's watching the watchers? FOIA provides that any person has a right to obtain access to federal agency records to the extent the records are protected from public disclosure by one or more of the 9 exemptions or by the more special laws. 3 special law enforcement record exclusions. Remember, you can't go ask for the plans for the B2. It's classified. You can't ask for certain things. There are many FOIA exceptions, but they do exist. Okay, guys? And they are, there's an entire list of them. We've gone through it before. You'll see, like, when the redaction, it'll say, like, parenthesis, like, B9 or B2. And that is just telling you what part of that. Like national security, internal rules, information prohibited by congressional disclosure, like Congress already banned it. There's also trade secrets, internal memorandums, personal privacy, law enforcement records, involving revealing confidential sources or investigations, financial records. For example, for the SEC, you don't get to see some of the documents that get filed because that's protected, like JP Morgan, which we're going to get to later, is part of that. Geological information, like concerning wells, because there's money in like oil wells and geology stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there. There are different things that they don't have to disclose. Real quick. Oh, let me see here. We're going to get to this real quick. Hella for $7.99 Australian. Hi, Hella. Guys over at Excited Utterance. Hope you're doing well, Hella. I am 10 subs away from 12K. Can I get a shout out, pretty please? Of course. Guys, go show Hella some love over at Excited Utterance. Let her get over that 12K bump. Give her some help on that. She does good work. She's actually been pulling in some like big numbers. She had Mark Randazza on lately. I saw that. That's an awesome interview to get. Congratulations on that. And yeah, guys, she's doing real good stuff out there. She's doing real good stuff out there. So help her out. Help her out. All right, let's get back to this real quick. So AJ implemented FOIA for the records. They also had a whole things here. The FOIA officer is an HHS official who's delegated the authority to release or withhold records in response to a request. And it says only FOIA officers have the authority to release or withhold records or to waive fees in response to FOIA. And that's the thing. For example, if you're requesting all the documents about something, they can say it's going to cost us $1 million to get that all together. You have to pay us for all the cost on printing it out. But that's the FOIA compliance officer. So the FOIA officer is responsible for receiving the FOIA requests, distributing them to personnel who have the records, and instructing the personnel to conduct searches for materials responsive to that. And a FOIA request meant a written request that reasonably described the records sought. The scope of a FOIA request could be narrowed through negotiation and agreement between the officer and requester. And that's the thing. There are some times, and Matthew Harden's really good at this with all his FOIA stuff. You go back and forth. Sometimes they might say like, okay, well, that's too vague. What exactly do you want? That's going to cost you X. Do you want something else inside of it? You can narrow down what you're looking for a little bit and negotiate through things. There were multiple requests that sought information here. So in the period between April 2020 and December 2022, there were hundreds of FOIA requests related to COVID-19. I'm sure there were like probably almost 1 million FOIA requests. Of those requests, many sought access to communications from Morons involving EcoHealth Alliance and Peter Daszak, as I'm assuming who they're getting to. So by Judicial Watch, by Science Magazine, by an individual, by U.S. Right to Know, which is an organization, by the Whistleblower Protection Project, by the Heritage Foundation, and another one by an individual. They talk about the onset of COVID-19. So in 2020, they began communicating about the emerging coronavirus in China. On January 9th, Morons, using his official email, said to conspirator number 1 and others to inquire whether they had any inside info on this new coronavirus that isn't yet in the public domain. That same day, conspirator number 1 said he had lots of information and referred to company number 1's coronavirus grant specifically focused on China. Oh, wow. So it did come out of China. It's like, we already knew this, but isn't it great how this fucking comes out? Isn't this great how this comes out? You're just like, wow. Wow. Once again, this is where, like, the guy's down one of the Saber squadrons at Bragg, whoever's on alert, just give him a couple of pictures and say, I want these men dead by morning, and just hop in the little birds and go do it. I mean, come on. Just get these people. Just like drag their bodies onto the front lawn of the White House for what they did. Co-conspirator number 1 emailed bullet points about the back coronavirus grants in his email account. And he said at the beginning of his email, he was providing the information so he might relay it to senior NIAID official number 1 for public use, stating, a few things for your information, hopefully pass on to Fauci when he's being interviewed regarding the new COVID. And it sounds like they're talking about Fauci. On the same day, he said, I will pass this along to blank. And he says that, he emailed them also to number 1's chief of staff. In February 2020, he wrote about coronaviruses as part of his NIH duties. He uses an email account for an email chain with co-conspirator number 1 and suggests publications on topics. They included emails saying timely commentaries about key aspects of the coronavirus, things that are from 30,000 feet, and are publishable in journals willing to publish quickly or in key newspapers. Oh, so it's propaganda efforts. Propaganda efforts. Isn't that funny, chat? Isn't that funny? They also co-authored articles and commentaries about COVID-19. Their correspondents used the NIH emails. In April, NIH used a letter notifying number 1 that it was reviewing allegations that Wuhan released the coronavirus. While it reviewed those, it instructed company 1 to cease providing any funds to the Wuhan Institute of Virology. Wow, chat. Wow. Yeah, this is funny. Uh-oh, not funny. Haha. Yes. They also sent a letter notifying him that they elected to terminate the grant. Yeah, isn't this is like they forwarded the termination letter to co-conspirator number 2, and they urged, number 2 urged number 1 to challenge the termination, but certainly not before the emerging infectious disease regional center funding comes through, a grant worth $7 million. So what was the conspiracy? Well, he knowingly and willfully conspired with conspirator number 1 and conspirator number 2 to commit offenses. So what do? They destroyed and concealed and covered up records and documents. They also then namely committed violations of 18 U.S.C. 2071, where they co-conspirators willfully and unlawfully with the intent to take, conceal, and move, obliterate, and destroy paper records and documents. They did these violations where co-conspirator number 1, a federal grantee, directly and indirectly offered promise and value of things to a public official who directly did that in receipt without proper discharge of his official duties. They defrauded the United States through craft, thrift, and treachery of the lawful legitimate functions of the HHS, the NIH, and the NIAID of complying with FOIA. So what did they do? Well, they started deleting stuff. They destroyed NIH work product, records concerning the efforts to influence the NIH to fund EcoHealth Alliance, records concerning EcoHealth Alliance back coronavirus grant termination, editing responses on behalf of Company 1 to NIH, records concerning the origins of COVID-19, records concerning oversight of the NIH, the access to Fauci and his use of that access to convey information from EcoHealth Alliance to Fauci, which is how I assume Fauci is. People unknown destroyed and caused concealment of records to FOIA and the Federal Records Act. They deleted their emails so nobody could find them. They concealed their communications. They concealed their communications so they could communicate with others for EcoHealth Alliance and publish papers. And it was to generate the appearance of disinterested scientific consensus and avoid the necessity of declaring competing interest. Remember, chat, they did all this to hide what they were arguing about. He uses his government issue email account by reminding him to avoid communicating using his government email account. So they took notes on their conspiracy on his government issued email account by telling him, don't use your government email account. That's like saying, hey, man, don't use a secure line. You've already given it up. Once again, this is taking notes on your criminal conspiracy here, chat. This really is. Oh my God, chat. It's like, it's a thing. And you're just like, why? Also, where the hell did that go? Hold on, I feel like I think I lost it. Oh, there it is.
Nigga, is you taking notes on a criminal fucking conspiracy? What the fuck is you thinking, man?
They did this to avoid FOIA request. They emailed information to his non-governmental Gmail account to relay to Fauci while instructing them to use the means of communication that couldn't be discovered, using Signal and Slack and doing all that crap. Remember, they do all this. They were doing all this to avoid things there. They shared fax press reports on the origin of COVID-19 regarding the proceedings on the coronavirus grant. And they then shared that material and information to anticipate press reactions, develop talking points, and coordinate responses. Yeah. It's once again, it's all the stuff we knew. Remember, all the stuff that was a conspiracy. It's like, wow, this is 100% true. All of it was true, chat. Well, remember when Peter Daszak's name came out and everybody pitch-pawed it? It's like, oh, wow, I guess that guy really was a bad guy. So what did they do? Well, they plotted to conceal federal records. And it just goes on and on and on here. And they say, this is sent from my Gmail account. Please all send replies here to the Gmail. There are things I can't say except Fauci is aware, and I have learned their ongoing efforts to steer this through with minimal damage to you. Peter Daszak and colleagues to NIH and IID. And it says they sent an email saying, we'll communicate with you via Gmail from now on. Doing this over a phone is a far more easier way to hide stuff. But actually, if you really want to do it, chat, remember, as people might not think, ham radio is, unless you know to look for this ham radio transmission when it comes through, there's no record of a ham radio ever being used. It goes into the air and is gone. So ham radio is a very good clandestine means of communication, unless your opposition knows you're using it. If they know you're using it and they know when you're using it, you're fucked. But if they don't know you're using this is encrypted. Encrypted ham radio is illegal on the civilian network. So, yeah. But you could. I wouldn't recommend that though. Yeah. So, and this is the thing. This is going to be used they're going to go after everybody. They're going to go after Hegseth. Everybody's going to be attacked using this. Get ready. So, Brad says, I thought Sean didn't like him. Thank you. So, there was an email entitled "More FOIAs on the way. This time to NIAID. Include emails to us." These dumb motherfuckers. Look, there's emails. They're coming for us. They're looking for emails to us and others regarding Wuhan. Oh my God, they're finding us. That's so funny. Moritz responded by thanking Co-Conspirator 1 for the heads up, stating, we all dread these FOIAs. They take up so much time. Oh, that's the problem here. That's the problem. They then talk about Morin's emailed prominent medical professions and list them out and speaking on behalf of Peter Daszak and Eco Health Alliance. Because of the termination of the things, and he says, I need to keep this correspondence off of USG emails for obvious reasons, so I'm sending from Gmail. I'm under multiple FOIAs already. Like I said, go down to Fort Bragg, get fucking, oh God, pick a Saber squadron out of Delta, or go to Dam Neck and go get DevGru, get like fucking Blue Squadron or Gold Squadron, and give them a list, stack of pictures, take care of this by the morning, and just set them loose. I mean, really, at this point, that would really prevent all this in the future. Peter Daszak is facing orchestrated death threats. I hope you do. If you invented coronavirus and you allowed it to happen and you set the standard for it, imagine that. Everybody wants to kill you. Can you really blame the world for wanting to fucking kill you for doing this? Would you? I mean, I would. We, Co-Conspirator 2 and I have advised Daszak to lay low, not go to the press, work through NIH to get a face-to-face meeting, and let others come to his defense. On or about May 15, 2020, Morin's emailed Daszak and falsely stating that the FOIA officer told Moritz he could cover his rear by deleting emails and making use of FOIA delays, and he would soon need to train himself only to use Gmail. Fucking, oh my God. He appreciated that Daszak was sensitive to these fucking idiots. Wow. This is a crime. He fucked up a whole generation. He fucked up humanity. And then Moritz, okay, so they say he emailed Daszak about an article he was drafting to benefit Daszak and EcoHealth Alliance, stating, "We all agree we want to keep it off any fingerprints of you. North Carolina scientists and EcoHealth Alliance are grant colleagues." He next concluded by saying, "I need to keep this off government email and government phone text." On or about July 2nd, he sent an email from his NIH account to his Gmail account with the subject, "In Outlook, delete or send to Gmail." What? Oh my God, this is so bad. Why do you do this, people? Why do you do this, people? Oh, why do you do this? Why you do this? Why you do this? Morin's, it goes on here. After learning there was a $7.5 million grant to EcoHealth Alliance, Morin's emailed stating, "Ahem, do I get a kickback? Too much fucking money. Do you deserve it all? Let's discuss." Now, is that a joke? I don't know. But when you're doing all of this, holy fucking shit, once again, fucking call up Blue Squadron and just let them fucking chase this guy down and kill him. Day of the rope shit here, man. So they emailed on the Gmail stating there's a kickback. It starts with 5 more years of FOIA request. I just hope it doesn't culminate in 5 years in federal jail. Well, I hope you go to jail, motherfucker. On or about November 19th, there's an email saying, "David, I'm using your Gmail address to keep you out of the FOIA target. Just wanted you to know we're still under attack here at EcoHealth. The U.S. Right to Know, an anti-GMO, anti-vax group associated with organic consumers, FOIA'd our emails and grants. NIH refused. They've now sued." They go on talking about briefing Fauci, where he says, "Pay attention to the email addresses you use. Say if you get FOIA and have to respond, it will have Daszak, and of less reports, me and the correspondence. The less we provide the enemy, the better." These people are fucking Mengele level. Zero Fucks is saying Lamau. No, I'm 100% serious. Like, fucking JSOC should go do some raids tonight. I wouldn't be about that. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Capture, not kill. No. I'm talking about some green light raids. I'm talking about green lighting, man. We're not. No, they're bringing body bags with them. It's like Bin Laden. There ain't no surrender. Ain't nobody getting surrendered tonight. Ain't no surrendering tonight. I learned from a FOIA lady here how to emails disappear after I'm FOIA, but before the search starts. So I think we're all safe. Plus, I deleted most of those earlier emails after sending them a Gmail. Wow, that totally fucking worked out. This totally worked out for you, buddy. This totally worked out. Let dev group bring kiddie pools. Yeah, we're not gonna waste time on site. No, we're gonna display them out on the lawn of the White House. Morin's emailed co-conspirator 1 and 2, stating he and Fauci had received a huge FOIA seeking any and all documents that mention the words Wuhan Institute or WIV. Your names will not show up in this FOIA, at least not from my info. He emailed a group with confidential within our small group, please. He said 5 U.S. senators about some issues we've been dealing with, focusing on the origins of COVID and the termination of the major SARS-CoV grant. And he added, God, this guy types poorly. Retained very few documents and continued to request that correspondence be sent to my Gmail address. And they said that he emailed Daszak to warn him that a FOIA picked up an email he had sent to Daszak. He said, I deleted that email, but now I learned that every email I ever sent since 1998 is captured and will be turned over, whether or not I instantly deleted it. What a fucking boomer. What a boomer. No, I didn't know this was going to happen. No. Oh, God, no. Gmail, phone, text. I need to scrupulously rely on those exclusively. Oh, my God, chat. Oh, my God. So he emailed, Daszak emailed Morins to warn them about prior emails that were sent and received from the NIH account. The email had the subject line, first batch of emails with addresses that might have been FOIA'd. They attached 27 emails and wrote in the body of the email, they're pulling out emails to me and about Wuhan. You're in some of these. We started using David's email address around the time of the cancellation of our grant, but slipped some through the net as expected. There's some embarrassing stuff in there. The most heinous is some details of what happened with the NIH cancellation. And my response to that was, and how you helped me shape it. If these emails are with reporters, they'll use them to create stories above the headlines like powerful cabal of science from within the NIH help draft anti-lab leak narrative. Yes, because that's what happened. Wow. It's like they knew what was going to happen there. They also had another line of second batch of emails possibly FOIA'd. It's like they're identifying, they're like, oh, this is all the incriminating evidence we did. Once again, chat, do not type this out. Do not type this out. Do not do this. If you're already in the shit, like phone calls at least, because at least like unless they have a wiretap going, the phone's not going to be documented. Holy shit. Holy shit, chat. This is fucking, oh my God. Joe says landline phone calls. Yeah, but you got to be careful because if it's in or out of your building, that could be recorded and you might not know. A cell phone that's not a company cell phone would be better. Yes, and one email to someone named Scarlett Hampton talking about tossing Ralph salad. They had 34 prior emails. And Daszak identified emails that may cause issues for the co-conspirators. And he says, the story we were working on in a cabal to orchestrate stuff. He concluded by stating, I will massively increase my scrutiny of all me emails that come from David, or CC him to make sure the NIH address is replaced by his Gmail from now on. Really important. He said another one, he says, I just want to let you know I'm working with our IT guys to get a fix where my Gmail no longer gets on my government phone or computer. So far, it seems my phone and Gmail are really safe. They do another one saying it's probably safe for you to contact me on Gmail, but if there's anything sensitive, best to use the phone. Well, they're learning, chat. They're learning. They say that emailed his NIH account a contactless email with the subject line, Gmail signature remove NIH. He emailed his conspirators saying Gmail is now safe from FOIA and hacking on my devices. It should be safe to communicate you with. And ultimately, he says, pass this on to Daszak. He's like, I ask you both that nothing gets sent to me except to my Gmail, and make sure what gets sent to my Gmail doesn't have a CC to another government employee who could be FOIA'd. They wrote an email saying, with the subject line, Daszak in the Salem witch trials. Yes, because it was totally a witch hunt, which we actually found a witch. That's the funny part. This is absolutely fucked up. Yes, narrator, it was not safe. Correct. They say keep all communication like some private email so it can't be retrieved by FOIA. You know, they use this account to conceal public records. I mean, this just goes on and on and on, chat. So what did he do, though? Well, he was emailing people for official use only, which now he's sharing shit he shouldn't be sharing on a Gmail. He says, send me an email with the information. I'll share it with the WHO. And they say at the time, Daszak was in China on a WHO mission to investigate COVID-19. Daszak was the only U.S. member on the mission. And actually, that'll tell us if it's Peter Daszak or not. Okay. Let me see here. Let's see here. It does not say in here. I don't see. Oh, yeah. Yep. Oh, no, chat. We got it. We got it. The international. Okay, so here you go. This is the Wuhan team, WHO team begins. So yes, who is tapped on this team? 14 members of the team have been deployed to China, including 8 experts, and then 1 representatives from different things. Okay, so who went there? Who went there? Who went there, chat? I mean, well, we can find out. The international experts tapped include John Watson, head of respiratory disease and public health England, Peter Daszak, president of the Health Alliance USA. There we go, chat. I didn't even have to read tweets figuring that out. That's Peter Daszak, president of Eco Health Alliance. There we go. Once again, this entire group of people, these people, the fact they draw breath, the fact these are the arsonists investigating the fire they all started. Once again, a stack of pictures. A stack of pictures. These men should not see the sunrise. Fucking disgusting. Fucking disgusting. So there you go. Daszak then said he hoped Morin's might whisper in Senior and Fauci's ear the smooth the right passage regarding reinstatement of the grant. These motherfuckers want their money. You know, Daszak emailed Morin stating it was a good idea briefing Fauci, and then he would offer the briefing for the COVID group. And they just go on and on here. And he says, introducing you to David Morins, who directly works for Fauci. Daszak wrote the Nobel laureate was speaking about the abuse of the funding system for political gain. So, Daszak concluded the email saying, I will now exit the conversation because my clear conflict of interest. Yeah, okay. So these are all things that were edited here. They go on to talk about this, guys. It's just so they talk about ultimately ultimately I want to get you and Fauci, Daszak and Fauci in an off-record manner because we're getting FOIA nonstop. So it's most important that Fauci doesn't have anything on the record that can come back to bite. Then ultimately, there's another email that says you could do it in the way that avoids FOIA. If not, just show them stuff on the screen share on Zoom. Once again, another way to get around that. Although to be fair, chat, all that stuff you have to presume it's being recorded at all there. So, and it just goes on and on and on, chat. All this shit. Just these guys. Just. Yeah. Yeah, it's giving me flashbacks from when I learned about all this stuff. I know. But it's like it's all right there. It's all right there, chat. It's all right there. Once again, if that, fire up, like I said, get the fact these guys are going to see the morning is a travesty of justice. So. Travesty of justice. Like I said, just once again, just fucking sweeper teams. Fucking sweeper teams need to be active. All right, chat. We did meet the goal, chat. With the goal, David will now endorse a chainsaw company once he tells us what chainsaw he used to chop up Celeste. Yeah, that's gonna be the funny thing there. So, oh my god, chat. Hold on here. What is? Let me see here. Why is this not working for me? Let me see here. Oh, there we go. This is like wanting to fight. Oh, nope, that's not it. I was going to be an asshole and make another goal because I know you can do that, but it's not letting me do it. All right. Well. Never mind. We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. Congrats, you're a COVID pregnant. Yes, that was all the stuff they did. Once again, fuck all these people. They have no more. You expect me to, reason with these people anymore? They can go to hell. They can all go to hell. Fauci and the whole gang. All right, moving on to something that is actually kind of funny, because we need a little bit of levity here before we get into the serious stuff again, chat. When being on the internet, at some point, there's pranks, jackass level stuff, but this is kind of like, I don't know. I think this is trying too hard. But anyway, so down in Florida, a couple of idiots went to a Target and they rode their riding lawnmower through it. And, you're like, I get it. Like, Jackass has done all kinds of funny things, but it's like, is this really that good? Is this really that good? I mean, like it's kind of funny, but it's not like super funny. So anyway, they did that, and yeah. All I see is clients for you. Yeah, but I'm not down there yet. But yeah, these guys got charged, and it was kind of funny, like, it's all a prank, bro. We're doing it for YouTube or TikTok, and it's like, yeah, well, I just don't know how it's gonna go for him. But yeah, just don't be retarded. Like, at some point, you're not like, you're kind of dealing with it, and now you got to get out of jail, and they're 18-year-olds, so hopefully they get, it's all misdemeanors. They'll be okay, but it's kind of retarded. I mean, like, it wasn't even that funny. It wasn't a good prank. So, we'll see what happens. But yeah, just don't be retarded like that, chat. Like, you got to have good pranks. So you got to be like, what did they get charged with? Well, they got charged with disorderly conduct. It's certainly disorderly. They damaged the windows on these doors. The doors themselves, like, the glass got shattered. If you go back here, you can see, like, this glass got fucked up pretty good here on the doors. Like, it looks like it got, broke. So yeah, criminal mischief, damaging property, nothing serious. How come these guys get busted? Because they were stupid and didn't run away. So that's why. So charged with having a good time. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's kind of stupid. So don't be retarded. Don't be retarded, chat. Make your stuff funny. Those doors are pricey. They're not too pricey. Yes, it's classic. It's classic. White ass Nibba's going hard as fuck. Yes, I guess you could say that. So I guess you could say that. All right, now moving on, guys. We've got if you guys remember this from a while back, this thing here was something you saw, and it was a bunch of shells that James Comey put together and saying 8647. And I don't care, restaurant or whatever it is. Oh, it means get rid of it or whatever. it doesn't really matter regardless of what this is. This is not a true threat of violence. James Comey's a big floppy faggot anyway. But yes, this is something he put together. And then he shortly deleted it. And then from here, James Comey has been indicted. And this is a bullshit indictment. Once again, if what he says, if that's all that is a threat, then once again, me talking about various ways to launch IED attacks and different things at a presidential campaign event probably constitutes it as well. It is gay and cringe, but that's not illegal. That's not illegal. If being gay and cringe is illegal, chat, we'd all be in jail by now. We'd all be in jail by now, and that's not how America works. Oh. I mean, honestly, it makes him look weak. It makes Trump look like a pussy. No, I mean, watching James Comey suffer, sure. And for what he did when he lied to Congress and how he undermined the President Trump with Crossfire Hurricane, I think James Comey should have to spend every day, he should wake up every morning and have to look underneath his car before he starts it. I think that's only fair. I just don't think this is right. But notice. That right there, if that's a threat, what I just said is clearly a threat. And, take it as you wish. Why would he have to look under his car? I don't know. Might be some energetic things under there. So, but yes. So anyways, on or about May 15th, Comey did knowingly and willfully, what did he do? Now, this becomes an issue. He made a threat to the president in the Eastern District of North Carolina, chat. Notice that's why we're in North Carolina. He was down at the beach when he did this. That's why it's happening there. No, not bees. Not bees. To take the life of and inflict bodily harm upon the president of the United States. And then I publicly posted a photograph with shells depicting the pattern 8746. Violation of 18 USC 871A. Now, the one thing I think that, they might argue is Comey said, oh, I just happened to find those there. I didn't know what it meant. And then he deleted everything. And it's like, bro, just stand on your fucking business saying you don't like him. We get it. You don't like him. And fuck you and your fucking daughter. You're both cocksuckers. Day of the rope should be applying to you too. But, just deal with it. Stand on your fucking business. And what I mean by bees, I mean a car bomb. He should be looking to make sure there's no bombs under his car every fucking night, every fucking morning. He should have to. He should fear being in open spaces so nobody fucking touches him with a rifle. So, yeah. Ultimately, though, this is the he did knowingly and willfully transmit it by publicly posting a photograph with the seashells here, and which a reasonable recipient who's familiar with the circumstances would interpret as a serious expression of intent to do harm. We're going to get to why no, that's not. And ultimately there, this is all retarded. This is a bullshit case. This should not, this should have been filed. There's a lot there, chat. There's a lot here that, there's a lot here, guys, that this is just bullshit. It shouldn't work. I just really, it's garbage. This should just, when I saw this, it was horseshit. There's a lot of different things when it comes to threats. I mean, yes, there is a reckless standard, but the case involving this, and it's fun because I've had to argue this a couple times, is Counterman versus Colorado. That's kind of the, it was a 2023 case. And, it's about how do you do this? And, is there if you recklessly disregard, and this is where it becomes important, are you recklessly disregarding a risk? Your statements would be viewed as threatening violence. And that's the problem. That's the problem here. Is it? You have to prove there's some subjective and notice what they're saying here. And the reason why they have this part listed here, the reasonable recipient right here, this reasonable recipient part, a reasonable recipient who is familiar with these circumstances would interpret. And this is because it's a Counterman versus Colorado. And that's why they're talking about saying A reasonable person would have a is there, subjective understanding his statement's threatening nature. Yeah, no. Dark Lotus says they must be bored at the DOJ. No, they're going after everybody. I think it's meant to send a message between the lines. I mean, I get that, but there's other ways. Like I said, just send out the HRT out and start clipping people. Fuck him. Turnabout is fair play. Yeah, but go stick him with the shit from Congress. That thing with the whole Lindsey Halligan thing. Fucking indict him again properly. Get a fucking attorney in there, a U.S. attorney who will fucking indict him and charge him for lying to Congress. That was actually valid. Like, fucking nail his ass to the wall. This is just more dick wiggling. Like, fucking stick the landing, guys. Stick the landing. How about the interpretation he's activating cells through MK Ultra? No. No, sir. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. So, if people are wondering what this is about, it's all bullshit. Under Alanis versus United States and Counterman v. Colorado, this is not going to make it. It's not going to make it, nor should it make it. I don't want it to make it. So, suffer, chat. Suffer. So let's see here. C3 Metal Thingies has been here for 22 months. Says N. Thank you. We're going to catch up here on some things, chat. We got to get these done first. Bob 2 mentioned that. Jamie did that already. IG88 says the Kung Pao Sicken. I've never heard the Lung Pao Sicken. That's funny. That's a new one. I've never heard that. Jim says, I wish Sean a happy birthday in space. Thank you. Well, I take up a lot of space. Katie's been a member for 26 months. Thank you, Katie. Says, could you imagine if we had this chat during COVID? Oh, yeah, that'd have been a lot of fun. That'd have been a lot of fun. Joseph Patton says, PPP believes everyone in the state eats Dover, Ohio Shoney's slop buffet. It is so over for Ohio. Once again, I'd rather live in Ohio than Brampton, Ontario. I mean, like, just saying, like, PPP, I'll bring you down there. I will come back up from Florida to meet you there and broker a piece with you at that buffet. Because, you'll eat it. You're still a big guy at heart. You're slimming down. I'm very impressed with it. It's making me feel bad because I'm still a fat sack of shit. But I know you would eat there. You would sample the buffet at a Shoney's. I know you would. And don't act like you wouldn't. Imagine how many years Sean would have waited for knee surgery in Ontario. Probably a lot. So, a lot. All right, chat. Moving on from there. In more interesting news, it's kind of like, wow, I thought this wasn't real. Federal law enforcement raided businesses in Minnesota fraud investigations. Wow. So what happened here? Well, federal search warrants were executed. 5 sites were done, and it was involved in Medicaid funding, including the Family Leering Center. And it's very, very interesting what happened here, because remember, all of these raids and the Nick Shirley stuff, led to, they point out the deaths of U.S. citizens, Renee Good and Alex Petty. Remember, they got killed for all this bullshit. Think about it. Think about it, chat. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? And look, the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions, like, we helped out. We're so proud of this. And the Quality Leering Center was closed down. And isn't it funny how that worked out? Isn't it funny how they worked out? It was closed in January, but the sign is gone now. And yeah, isn't it funny how this works? Isn't it funny how this works, chat, on how this does? Tim Walz even came out, chat, on Twitter. And he said, if you commit fraud in Minnesota, you're going to get caught. And that's what we saw today. We catch criminals when everybody works together. Huh, isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny how that works? Isn't that funny how that works? Isn't that funny how that works? Isn't that funny? But remember though, going back to the family learning centers, and going back to this, remember, the Minnesota Child Health Centers were operating as expected, the reports say. Okay, that's the Minnesota Family Services, but what are they saying today? Well, the State Department of Children, Youth, and Families praised Tuesday's raid and wanted some credit for it. We're pleased to see that they take strong action based on information we've shared. These motherfuckers are taking the piss. Yes, it's comeuppance season. It's comeuppance season. Yes, Meme Copium says quality living must be yummy at the Ren Fair. Yes. I dare. Yeah, are you going to strike me for that, Jeremy? Is your pussy flopping around in the wind right now? Yes, the hypocrisy is astounding. Yes. Once again, there's so many people that JSOC could be chasing down on a midnight raid tonight. Like, the list could just be endless. Tampon Tim, like, I mean, we could send them after everybody. We'll run out of hours on all the little bird airframes chasing all these guys down. But isn't that funny how that works, chat? Isn't that funny how that works? Oh, chat. Oh, chat. Isn't that interesting? All right. Another update, chat. As we covered yesterday, the Voting Rights Act has been eviscerated. No longer can you say black folks need special voting districts because that's racist. And what have we seen now in Louisiana for that voting district that got wiped out? Well, from the state of Louisiana, the governor has declared a state of emergency and suspended primary elections for representatives of Congress. Remember, chat, the Supreme Court is being asked to speed up the decisions and send it down. Well, there's another thing that happened. An order out of the Western District of Louisiana. And they say in the matter, because of the Louisiana versus Calais issue, the injunction issued by this court remains in effect. You're like, woo, buddy. Prohibiting the racial districting. The permanent injunction remains in effect. The state of Louisiana will be afforded the opportunity to act a constitutionally compliant map consistent with the court's opinion. The state of Louisiana shall file a brief outlining how the state intends to comply with the opinion within 3 days. Any response to the brief by other parties must be refiled within the 3 days. So we are like in a week, chat. We are turning this around. Based. Yes, the DOJ has come out and said they're going to enforce this to happen. And you're just like, based. Based, chat. Absolutely based. You just love to see it. You love to see it, chat. People are suffering everywhere they go. Just suffering. Oh. Yeah, so this is going to be great. Yeah. So here we go, chat. Yes. Are you still happy with Virginia? Well, happy with, yeah, come on, Indiana, Ohio, every red state, just district them all out, man. Get rid of all of it. Yes. And the fire rises in the South. Yes. I'm Southerners, I'm joining you. Soon. And soon I will be in the land of a cotton, where the whole times there are not forgotten. Yes, also today is the anniversary of the Louisiana Purchase. Yes. All right, guys, we don't have time for the JP Morgan. You know, we're gonna touch on this real quick. So this is like absolutely fucked up that this even happened. But an Indian guy, Chirayu Urania, has made a he faked a sexual harassment claim against his boss. He worked at JP Morgan, and he filed and said that his boss turned him into a sex slave and kept him at work and forced him to give his female boss forced herself on him and forcibly gave him blowjobs. Yes, this dude was all about Bob's and Vagana. But he has now retracted his claims. And he's accused of, and this is his boss, who she's, saying like, he's like, I was kept as a sex slave. J-Rex says, I was ready to apply when I first heard this. I was kept as a sex slave, and my boss, she forcibly gave me blowjobs. Yes, she called her boobs cannons, apparently. Yes, she did a lot of stuff here. They weren't even direct reports, which really is kind of weird. But yes, there were all kinds of fucked up allegations that, like, she rubbed her titties in his face and was like, your wife ain't got titties like these, your fish-headed wife. Yeah, she got a big forehead. But that's okay, chat, that's okay. But like this guy's a pretty white Indian. Isn't that kind of like the goal for Indians, like to be as white as possible? Because he's a pretty white Indian. So it's just a little interesting on how that, like, we'll get into that a lot more. The lawsuit's pretty funny. Chat. I was like, all right, moving on to the last thing. The ATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, they had a big press conference yesterday. Meme says the goal mentioned. Well, yeah. Oh, praise the goal. We got to meet the goal, chat. We need to meet the goal. Can we hit it? I don't know, chat. Can we? But anyways, the ATF came out and like, oh, we're passing a bunch of rules. It's like 30 rules. And I'm like, I can't imagine any of these are worth a fuck. Some of these aren't bad. Okay. So we're going to go on to some things here. There are some interesting things. There are some things the ATF is doing here. The director, we also have a new director of the ATF. So we'll see what happens. But the way this started is it's the ATF's new era of reform. Their new era of reform at the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So they launched a bunch of things here. There's a bunch of different rules that they're changing. And if you guys are like, they broke them down into groups. So we'll start with the groups here. Align. This is such corporatization here. The Align group. What are they changing in the Align group? Well, they're approving conforming changes for approving a making application. What's this about? Well, a final rule regarding the NICS system is part of the NFA approval process for people making NFA items. So if you're using a Form 1 and you want to make an item, it allows, to conduct these checks as part of a standard processing. They're just trying to make stuff work better. Some things with the Department of Commerce and the Arms Export Control Act, updating prescribed countries for import restrictions, adding component definitions into the Arms Export Control Act. So also importantly, the United States munitions list. If you guys ever want to read some of this stuff, it's interesting what counts as munitions. Implementing the Patriot Act improvements, contraband cigarette and smokes. The rule reduces the quantity threshold triggering jurisdictions under the Contraband Cigarette Trafficking Act, which you're like, wait, is that a thing still? Yes. Running cigarettes up from the south up into the northeast. That's still a mafia game, guys. Like there's a lot of money in running smokes. Changes to the NFA regarding tax remittance provisions. Once again, issuing the rules to amend the tax remittance for certain NFA items. You're like, okay, cool. There's some things that are kind of neat here, though. All right. The Clarify group. Well, what's this? Well, talking about firearms activities and foreign trade zones. And there are some things where if you're brought into like a customs bonded warehouse, there's different rules that apply to guns and how they're imported. You can do this. I know Fudbusters probably can explain this one a lot better than me, but there's like magical little areas where you can do all kinds of shit that doesn't violate the law. This part here, though, importing dual-use frames, receivers, or barrels. This is big, actually. The ATF is proposing to clarify that you may lawfully import firearm barrels, frames, and receivers capable of being used on both sporting and non-sporting firearms, guys. This is actually very important, the whole sporting purposes. Remember, the whole issue about having a sporting purpose, the ATF and the DOJ have used that to restrict items. That, remember, there was a ban for a while on Segas. The USAS 12 was determined not to have a sporting purpose, so it became an NFA item. Remember, if there is no sporting purpose for a shotgun, it becomes an NFA item. So 12-gauge shotguns are all destructive devices by definition, but only because they have sporting purposes, they're exempted. So every 12-gauge shotgun in America could be an NFA item. Every 20-gauge shotgun in America could be an NFA item. They say provided an identified sporting configuration for the barrel exists at the time of importation. The rule also clarifies that once lawfully imported, a dual-use frame may be incorporated in the assembly of an NFA-regulated firearm subject to all other applicable laws. This is actually really important. This is actually important here, and allowing competitive shooting to be sporting is very important as well. Yes, this shouldn't exist, but remember, guys, we're not going to get what we really want. Abolishing the sporting, the sporting requirements, we're not going to get rid of that. This one's actually a big one as well. Importing of training rounds. This means simunitions and other things can become imported. That's actually really important here. So they're clarifying that training rounds, including inert, marking, or simulated projectile products for training purposes, do not meet the definition of ammunition under the Gun Control Act and are therefore not regulated under the GCA or Arms Control Act, provided the round is not for a firearm. So you can do like importing in like simunitions and training devices. Like that shit is really heavily regulated, and the companies that have them don't like to sell them in America. But foreign companies probably can get away with selling them now. This here, converting permits for defense articles, not a big deal. Allowing makers to adopt certain markings for the National Firearms Act. This is interesting here. It's allowing individuals who make NFA items by altering existing firearms to adopt the markings already applied by the original manufacturer rather than applying additional redundant markings. And that's because, chat, for example, if I buy an AR-15 receiver if I take my Rock River AR-15 that I've had since 2008, God, it's a long time I've had that thing. It's already got all the information. Rock River Arms, Kelowna, Illinois, LAR-15, and it's got a serial number on it. If I make that a short-barreled rifle, I then have to engrave my name, Sean Martin, here in Ohio, in my city in Ohio, and you have to do all your maker identification stuff. To adopt markings already applied rather than apply additional ones. Because the original importer and serial number are already required, this proposal eliminates a duplicative regulatory requirement while ensuring marking requirements are satisfied. Now, what has happened? The ATF has done this before through individual variances, meaning they've allowed people to do whatever they want at that point. They've given you a variance. So if you guys have ever watched Ordnance Lab, when they make all those Molotov cocktails, technically, if I make a Molotov cocktail, I can pay the tax stamp to make one, but I have to engrave a serial number on it. Now, they've applied to a variance to the ATF saying, instead of wasting all the time on that, can we just write on it with a paint pen? And the ATF said, yes, but you need permission first. That's a variance. Just like zoning, you get a variance. Clarifying delivering to a common contract carrier when transporting firearms. They're clarifying that the delivery of firearms and ammunition to characters or a person traveling aboard a common carrier while maintaining direct control over a firearm does not constitute delivery of that firearm to the carrier. They're clarifying a lot of things here that don't work. They're revising definitions of adjudicated mentally defective or committed to a mental institution. They're modernizing it. This would redefine the term associating with intellectually disabled and clarify a person receiving assistance only in one functional area, like financial management, would not on that basis be considered prohibited under this definition. That's a big deal because, like, if you get a tugboat from the government, if you're on VA disability or you're on SSD, you have to have pays at times. They say they also want to clarify that individuals committed to a mental institution from a determination they're a danger properly fall within the definition of a committed institution and not within the definition of mental defective. They want to clarify exceptions to the background checks. So if you have a NICS check, but if you have a state-issued firearms permit, it's an alternative to a NICS check. So, like, for example, when I get down to Florida, if I don't have a concealed carry permit down in Florida, I have to, go through a NICS check every time. Also, apparently in Florida, there's a 3-day waiting period, which is gay. Be like Ohio, Florida. But anyway, apparently I get to skip that 3-day waiting. I think I skipped the 3-day waiting period if I have a concealed handgun license. So we'll do that. That's there. Selecting biological sex on the ATF forms. Definition of business premises, redefining that. And then redefining straw purchases. I know you can't buy binary triggers in Florida. I'm going to get one before I come down. So the ATF is proposing to amend clarity around the federal prohibition on straw purchases. And I think this is helpful because right now, if you buy a gun as a gift, technically that's a straw purchase, you could argue. They say straw purchases effectively hide the identity of the purchaser and circumvent the regulatory requirements by impeding the ability of law enforcement to trace guns in the commission of a true purchaser or ultimate recipient. It's to provide clear guidance, which including which transactions are not considered straw purchases. Hopefully, they're going to say if it's clearly a gift, that it won't be. So, Adam says, "What's a binary trigger?" If you go on YouTube, it's the ones that just make the gun shoot faster. So, and they reset. So, like when you pull the trigger, bang, and when you let go of the trigger, it also fires. It's binary. Creating a definition of willfully for firearms violations, the ability to suspend or revoke an FFL license or impose civil penalties. They want to define formally the term willfully. Because right now willfully will be it's unlawful if it's unlawful, even if you're not sure what law you're breaking. So there you go. There's more here, chat. This is actually there's a couple of big ones. This is another big one here, guys. Interstate transportation and temporary export of NFA items. What does this mean? This is a big one here, guys. This is a huge one. Under the proposal, individuals transporting NFA items for short-term purposes under 1 year would no longer be required to submit advance notice to the ATF or await approval before departing. So, guys, if you didn't understand what this means, if you owned a silencer or a short-barrel rifle, short-barrel shotgun, machine gun, any other weapon, destructive device, anything like that, and you wanted to travel, like I live in Ohio. If I wanted to travel to Pennsylvania, I would have to fill out what's called a Form 20. And you have to submit it, and you have to tell the ATF, here's what I want to do. And here's where I'm going. Here's what I want to do. And it's right now, it's mandatory. It's mandatory. And this is what you would fill out. You would fill out an ATF Form 20, and that's called this is what it is. It's an application to interstate or temporarily export certain NFA items. And you fill out what it is, the reason for transportation, transporting from, transporting to, the mode of transportation, you know, and like, you know, all this stuff. If you're exporting, what you have to do, and you have to submit all this before you can move with it. And if I just wanted to go, if I want to go to a shooting competition, I need approval. You know, or the firearms return your original location. Now, for me, I have to fill one of these out because I'm going to Florida and I've got a couple of NFA items. So I got to fill one of these out. Thankfully, the wait time's like 2 weeks now. I'm going to fill it all out and I'm going to say, are we returning? No. You know, the dates in transit. I'm going to have to fill out the dates I'm going to be transporting. All that just for a can? Yes. Or a short-barreled rifle or anything. I take a good test, or you could just not tell them until they find out. Like that's a very poor idea. Very poor idea. So, and given all the amount of melanated A-loggers out there who would love nothing more than to jam people up, because the idea you think that wouldn't happen, you're sorely wrong. There are so many people out there who would beat their dick raw to see somebody like me get in trouble. So I'm a little too late because I've already talked about having this stuff. But anyways, you fill it all out, and I'm going to get it submitted. I'm actually submitting it tomorrow. If you still need to rehome the super safety, I don't think I have to because I have it already. So, but anyways, that's what you use with that. Let's see here. So this is huge. Individuals transporting NFA items for long-term purposes for more than a year or permanent relocation would still submit notice but wouldn't need to await ATF approval before transporting. This change to the Form 20 is intended to remove unnecessary burdens and allow people to travel freely. So, yeah. And this NPRM chat, you see, this is notice of proposed rulemaking, meaning it's not in effect yet. This is another big one, joint registration for spouses under the NFA. Because right now, only one person or entity can own the item. So right now, I own all my NFA items. And when 2.0 and I get married, she can't own them. That would require establishing a trust or an LLC or an S corporation. It has to be some sort of entity then that would do that. This would allow people to jointly possess them without creating a trust. You know, this would allow the transfer between them would not constitute a separate transfer, reducing both burdens and costs for firearms owners. Removing the chief law enforcement officer notification. When you guys do NFA items, and if you're buying anything in the NFA, yeah, damn, almost 3 hours. We're hurrying up here, chat. You have to notify, as part of the thing here, notifying the chief law enforcement officer. In some states, it's mandatory. And this was back when, in like the 1930s, you know, the Treasury Department didn't know who you were, but your local sheriff could say, yeah, he's a good guy or not. Well, we don't need it anymore. The clarifying interstate transportation of firearms. This is a big one. Under the Firearms Owners Protection Act, it would allow to reasonably necessary activities, including overnight stops, vehicle maintenance, refueling, emergency stops, and medical treatments. Right now, that's not actually done. You just have, under the law, I could travel through states with my guns legally, but it doesn't say I could stop or get gas. So, like, what do people do if they're driving through Illinois? They gas up on either Iowa or Indiana's border and just go straight through. Or, you know, some of these other states, which it's dangerous to go to other states, but Illinois is a great example. You don't stop. You don't stop unless you're forced to. Transferring machine guns between licensees. This is for, like, you know, dealer samples and shit. Not worried about that. Clarifying SOT payments. That's not really an issue we care about. If you run an SOT, yeah. This one's interesting. Removing triplicate filing requirements for importing plastic explosives. This is a final rule, meaning this is already going into effect. So if you import plastic explosives, you only need to do one Form 6, I guess. So good for you guys. Good for you guys. Yeah. That's good. That's good. For the modernizing part of this, there's a couple more things here. Remember, 34 things. Revising the 4473 requirements. What's in here? So what are they doing here? They would say, streamline the identity and residency verification requirements for transferees. It would increase the time period for NICS checks remaining valid. So meaning if it helps authorize use of electronic forms, auto population, and digital record attachments. That would be helpful. That would be helpful. The records keeping. Right now, they want to authorize to do stuff using electronic record keeping. Right now, you have to have paper bound books of all this stuff. The ATF's already permitted this practice for licensees through blanket and individual variances. But technically, if you run a gun store, you got to have all paper. And that's how they fuck with you by not doing it. But they want to do electronic record keeping, reducing paperwork burdens, which would help a lot. The retention periods. For right now, you have to keep your records forever. And then when you're done, you give all of your 4473s to the ATF. So guess what they do? They make a registry with that. And to be fair, many gun store owners will tell you this. ATF agents have come in with wand scanners before and just start wand scanning 4473s. They're retaining that data anyway. You tell them, like, wait, that's illegal. You can't do it. They do whatever the fuck anyway when your IOI shows up. It's a very common thing. So the indefinite retention of records with a definite retention period. The ATF's considering periods of either 20 or 30 years. It should be even shorter. They also propose a 20 or 30-year retention period required for ATF's out-of-business records center at the National Tracing Center. That doesn't matter. All that shit's getting digitized. It's never going away. They want to have a 5-year period for multiple sales reports for pistols and revolvers. This is all bullshit because they're never going to get rid of these things. They want to do easy check verification for transfers. They're going to do a lot of things here. They're trying to change how you do things for FFLs. That's not really a big deal here. This one's going to be interesting. Revising non-over-the-counter transaction requirements. They're going to allow you to do non-over-the-counter transactions to residents of the same state. This would allow FFLs to require complying with the Gun Control Act and the Brady Control Act. More efficiently include identification verification. And they're allowing you they're trying to do that. That's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. I haven't looked at that yet. But anyways, that's the entirety of that. And then finally, you're like, wait. So they're talking about stabilizing brace, and you're like, wait, that's already been settled for a while. Well, multiple federal courts have found the pistol brace rule violated the APA, and the rule has been enjoined, state, or vacated across numerous jurisdictions, and the ATF has still enforced it at times. They're removing the regulatory language, getting rid of it. Okay, great. Changing what engaged in business is, and they're revising it to as far as it goes. They're resetting certain provisions, and they want to do this to make it easier for people. They're revising the definition of machine gun in response to the Supreme Court definitions. They're removing the 2 sentences from its regulatory definitions of a machine gun that previously had bump stocks in it. But remember, Garland versus Cargill, where they said that's not a machine gun under the NFA, so therefore it can't be a machine gun. So that's good. This one, removing the Youth Safety Handgun Act notices. So you don't, each handgun purchaser, has to get a written notice of the Youth Handgun Safety Act. If you're in Europe or outside of America, when you buy guns, you have to get a trigger lock. It comes with all that stuff. And you get you get paperwork saying oh, don't let youth get hurt with guns and shit. It's all gay. So that's all done. The 4473 shouldn't exist, but it does. So, it's an unnecessary burden to inform purchaser about a law that's been in place for over 30 years, and you can look it up. So, Adam says, Eurotrash can buy guns in the U.S.? No. But for people who live in Europe, They don't understand what any of this means. So I'm explaining to them how that works. So there's actually some pretty good things in here. A lot of this doesn't affect you as gun owners, but what does affect you as a gun owner is pretty important. So I like it a lot. It's actually good. It's not it's not the most base things imaginable, but I mean, I'll take it. I'll take it. I mean, I'm not gonna, he's gonna spit. Trump's gonna spit in our mouths. I mean, that's what he's doing. So I guess we're gonna have to take it. When you think about it, it's just like we're gonna have to just take it and just, ugh. Which sucks, but I just I don't like that. But once again, chat, suffer we must. Suffer we must. Suffer we must. So there we go. Ohio ID to buy private. You don't have to really look good. I mean, you don't have to really ID people. I would recommend you ID. Well, it depends where you're at. So, for example, if you talk to me, you lived in Toledo, and you wanted to make sure you weren't selling guns to somebody who was from Michigan, you could say, "Hey, can I see your ID?" And a couple times I've bought and sold guns when I lived up in Toledo. I did that because I wanted to make sure I wasn't getting a fucking sting. And one time the guy wouldn't show me his ID, and I'm like, dude, I don't need to know who you are. I just need to know you're an Ohio resident. And he's like, look at my car. It's got a license plate. And I'm like, no, that's not good enough for me. I need to see your fucking ID. And maybe it was a sting. Who knows? But other than that, yeah, you don't really need IDs to buy private. So, I mean, it's all until the next president is elected. Yeah, but if you knock all this out, I mean, I don't know what more you can do. So, yeah, I mean, but it depends, Missouri Battle Flag. If I was here in Cleveland and I talked to a guy and the guy's like, yeah, hey, I live in Maple Heights and I'll meet you over by the racetrack. And I don't have any reason to believe he's not from Ohio, I'll be okay. But if I'm on a border area, I probably would want to check. If you go see his bill of ID, you should be writing a bill of sale. Yeah, I don't do all that. If I'm buying a gun from you and you're not writing all my information down, I sold it. I don't have to keep records. And if you start taking notes, I don't necessarily want to sell you I don't want to buy a gun from you anyway. So, but that's how you could freely do stuff. Now, your state may be different, guys. Don't do what I just said without talking to a lawyer where you live, because some of you guys have weird fucking rules in your states. But in Ohio, you can kind of do whatever the fuck you want. Yeah, get those NFA projects going before it is too late. Yes. Yes. All right, chat. With that said, God, 3 hours. Damn, I'm sorry, guys. Over 300 of you still here over on YouTube, guys. Thank you so much for being here. We are all done. We are heading over to potentiallycriminal.locals.com. Promo code ICESTORM gets you access for 1 month free to all the fun stuff, the Monday night and Thursday night shows, which are for members only and supporters only. With all that, yeah, I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to go over the big loss for Reddit. We're also going to go through some Russell Greer stuff. And we'll be waiting, because apparently Flash has invited Jeremy on to Flash tomorrow night, I guess. Sounds like some stuff might go down tomorrow. And we'll take a look at that. Meme copium. What does he say here? Yes, the Rama, yes. All right. Rabbit Stick, well, you just said till the next president. Guess you do an EO, the other president can undo that EO. So, oh, he won't show. Yeah, he won't show. He's a coward, but well, you never know. You never know. Anyways, chat, I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, until next time. Also, once again, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for your guys' support tonight. Super chats. Thank you so much. Want to make sure. Oh, Malcolm Combs says, finally, I can have the striker in my dreams. No. Strikers are DDs, destructive devices. They are not delisted off the NFA. They have not been delisted. It'd be nice if they would, but they're not going to be. So, no, you're not going to be able to get a striker. Not going to be able to get a striker or a USAS for like a couple of bucks. And anyway, there's better shotgun options out there nowadays. So, with that said, chat, I will talk to you guys later. And remember, until next time, chat, just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. Good night, chat. Good night.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy that Kaden yelled?